1 second, and we are live. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, all devotees. Today is day 2 of Srila Rupa Goswami's Tirobhav. Thank you for everyone's support and association. Let me do our invocation. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Sri Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. To start the program, we'll have Javai Dhwani, Madhusudan Prabhu from Miami. He is at the ashram of our beloved Srimati Shamrani Didi. Madhusudan Prabhu, let me know if you can come unmute yourself, come on Zoom, and please perform Jai Dhwani and Kirtan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Prabhuji, but we can't see you.
Okay, I think I'm going to have to leave and re-enter safe driving mode. Let me check. Do you have me on some certain setting? Here, 1 second. Hare Krishna, 1 second.
Yes, we can see you, Prabhuji. Yes, unmute yourself.
Maybe just exit and enter this. Okay, let's go back. Okay, anyway, let me just start. Okay, start video. All right,
yes.
Here we are.
Haribol.
Haribol. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. Let me just set this.
Now all the devotees can relish the Srimati Shamrani Didi's place. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, yes. So we just recently moved from Hollywood, Florida to Miami, and we've installed today Radha Raman behind you. Beautiful marble, beautiful big deities, and we have started a new center, a cultural center in Miami with a museum for original artworks, and today is the inauguration of the temple. There's actually a beautiful big kirtan going on inside with maybe 100 devotees. So we're going to do our little our Jai Dhwani here, and then we have the option to either go inside and hear that kirtan, or we'll start a kirtan out here. So now I ask we all come into a prayerful place, bring our hands to our hearts, and Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Asatarasat Shri Srimad Parivrajak Srila Van Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravista Om Vishnupad Asto Tarasata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravista Om Vishnupad Asto Tarasat Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravista Om Vishnupad Asto Tarasat Shri Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravisham Vishnupada Sutarasat Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravisham Vishnupada Sutarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravisha Parma Bhagavat Pravad Sri Srila Gaura Kishora Dasa Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravisha Sri Srila Bhakti Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravisha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Gauriya Vedantacharya Sri Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur ki jai. Srila Narottam Srinivas Samananda Prabhu Chai ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Shri Rupa Goswami ki jai. Shri Rupa Goswami ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Shri Gopasad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prema se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Antadweep Mayapur Shamantadweep Gojamdweep Majadweep Koladweep Richadweep Janadweep Mojadrumadweep Rujadweep Atmaka Shri Navadweep Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwara Savanatmak Shri Rajamanda ki jai. Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Ganga Yamuna Tulasi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Asta Sakis Asta Manjaris ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shri Darshan Chakra Chu ki jai. Shri Chitra Mandala Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Sarva Vigna Vinasakari Shri Nishingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Prabhar Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Choridam Choriya Choriya Chori Sampadaya ki jai. Akar Mataraj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai. Shri Shri Keshavji Gauriya Mata Sat Sat Mata Muha ki jai. Shri Bhakti Zoom Meetings ki jai. Shri Sacred Vedic Arts Center Miami ki jai. Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Hare Krishna Hamansha ki jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. Okay, so we'll do a little kirtan here now for you all to start off this meeting.
Bluetooth mode.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Okay, Gaur Premanande. So we have a few minutes left. I want to take you inside and show you the kirtan that's going on with the devotees in the temple. One moment here. We have a little Tulsi garden set up. Tulsi Devi coming into the temple. We have some nice kirtans going.
And for all those who joined, Madhusudan Prabhu, for all those who joined recently, this is Srimati Shamrani Didi's ashram. They are moved into a new, today's inauguration day. And they've installed new DDs today. So. Madhusudan Prabhuji, thank you so much. We have to leave because we have got other speakers lined up. So, Prabhuji, Madhusudan Prabhuji, I'll put you on mute because you have to start our program. Thank you. Okay. Our next speaker is Mukunda Prabhuji. Mukunda Prabhuji, thank you so much for joining. Mukunda Prabhuji, in the Sangha, everybody knows him, known for his scholarship and also speaking from his heart. Mukunda Prabhuji, you got 25 minutes. As we get closer to the end of your time slot, I will kind of give you a heads up.
All right, very good, Prabhuji. Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Tinamane Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudaksham Adhoja Madhoja Gunaishta Yuktam Paramvaranyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tom Sirasanamahu Guruve Gaur Chanjaya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dhanyavad devotees. So, of course, everything started from yesterday, and many devotees have done so much glorification of Sri Rupa Goswami Pad. So I wanted to speak a little bit about something I spoke on earlier in the day on my
Mukunda Prabhuji, you're on mute. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, let me see. Okay, yeah,
Yes,
I was unmuted.
We can hear you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so I was saying we cannot glorify Rupa Goswami really. Just like a diamond, the value, rareness, preciousness, beauty, value of that diamond is intrinsic in the diamond. So what someone will say about the diamond, it is very beautiful, it is very shiny, it is very expensive. It does not glorify the diamond. It only allows revelation to that person about the glory of that diamond. The glory of that diamond is already intrinsic to the diamond. In the same way, the glory of Rupa Goswami is intrinsic. We cannot glorify, we can only remember for our own edification and purification the glory of Rupa Goswami Pad. Also, I cannot speak for all. I have not been so fortunate in this life to have had the darshan of Sri Rupa Goswami Pad. But I've seen Rupa Goswami Pad in the prakash of my Shri Gurudev. In my Shri Gurudev's pranam mantra, which is what I want to speak about in relation to Rupa Goswami, it is mentioned, Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudaksham, Adoja Madhoja Gunaishcha Yuktam. Adoja Madhoja. Shri Vyasadeva Ji, when he was writing Srimad Bhagavatam, he began by describing in his invocation verse, it is called Namaskaratmaka verse, he describes Janmadhyasya Yatahat Anviyat Itarachasta Artesu Abhigyasarat. In that opening statement, he describes the highest spiritual ideal, Janma Adirasa. This is taken from the commentary Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad. Our Guru Pada Padma used to speak on it so many times. This highest spiritual ideal, Adirasa, is experienced as meeting and separation, Anvayat Hitaratas, by that person who is Abhigyaswarat, meaning Shri Krishna, who is also Akila Rasamritamurti. So that highest spiritual ideal is not something that is open and available to everyone. It is very adhikar specific. It requires qualification. Krishna himself is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha savasha yog maya samamrita. I reserve the right to be covered by yog maya. My highest ideal, that is not shown to everyone. In order to see that, it requires mercy. Even Krishna in Krishna Lila does not bestow that mercy to the general public. What to speak of general public, even persons like Uddhav, who are direct associates of Krishna, they cannot fully digest the nature of the prema that's inherent in that Leela. So Krishna himself, he is trying to understand the nature of the glory of Radhika's praying, which is manifest in that Leela. So Vyasadeva Ji, when he was writing, he wrote, yes, this is the highest spiritual ideal, the highest quality of love between Radha and Krishna. It is called Adhirosa. And Radhika's highest kind of love is called a Madanakya Mahabhav. Krishna himself has desire to understand that love. And because that Leela is so exclusive, no one has access to it except those who have qualified to enter that Braja Leela. But something special happens. Vyasadeva Ji goes on to write 18,000 verses, 335 chapters, 100 stories. And at the conclusion, in the 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, he describes what is the process to obtain realization or adhikar, to have entrance into that Braja Leela. And then interestingly, in the 12th canto, he almost makes a 180-degree turn, and he looks at all of the degraded features of Kali Yuga. And in writing all the degraded features of Kali Yuga, Vyasadeva is thinking, how will it be possible for people who are in this kind of atmosphere to even practice bhakti that I described in the 11th canto, and to realize what I described in 9 cantos leading to the 10th canto, describing the nature of this highest quality of love up to the pastime of Shri Ras Leela. How will they understand this? In Kali Yuga, Mandasu Mandamatayo, Mandabhagi Ubadruta, everyone has a short lifespan. They're very distracted, they're quarrelsome, they're lusty, angry. Every possible disqualification is there. How will they understand? But then Vyasadeva has a special quality. Before he even wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, in meeting with Sri Naradji, and in having discussion with Narad, Narad told, everything you need has been given to you already by Bhagavan, because you're Bhagavan's Shaktyavesh. You're the empowered incarnation of Bhagavan for this purpose only, to compile all of the transcendental knowledge. So he said, you have to go and practice yourself deep mood of Rag Bhag Bhakti in order to really flesh out and bring out the truth of what is all Sastra meant for. So Vyasadeva then, Bhakti Jogena Manasi Prana Asamyak Pratile Amale, Apashat Purusham Puranam. This is an important line. Apashat Purusham Puranam. He saw everything completely. So if Vyasadeva saw everything completely, how would it be that he did not see Gaur Leela? Because Gaur Leela and Radha Krishna are two sides of one coin. It is the Adurja and Madhurja Leelas. They are two sides of one coin. So in the 12th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, when Vyasadeva was going through despair, how will people obtain entrance into this beauty of Radha Krishna's Leela, which I've described, and I've also imparted in the heart of my son, Shukdev Goswami, who's beautifully narrated to all persons. He gave to Sutta Goswami, who narrated to all sages at Namasharanya. How will people get this? Then the epiphany came to Vyasadeva. Nama Sankirtanayasa Sava Papa Pranasanam Pranamo Dukha Samanastam Namaming Haring Param. He saw the darshan of the coming of Sriman Mahaprabhu. With his hand trembling, he wrote this last shlok in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and put his pen down to rest. He entered into Mahaprabhu's pastime as Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur to continue writing Bhagavat in the form of Chaitanya Bhagavat. This Chaitanya Bhagavat is the Adurja Leela. It means it is that Leela in which the necessary unfolding of compassion and mercy is so thick, so full, that it is competent to bestow upon all the jivas regardless of qualification. It is competent to bestow upon them the ability now to pick up this practice of bhakti and have access or entrance into that divine Leela that Vyasadeva described in the very first slok of Srimad Bhagavatam. But there's an interesting thing. Even when the Lord decided to come as Mahaprabhu, Prema Rosaniyas Karite Ashwadan Ragamar Bhakti Loke Karite Pracharan, he came for two reasons: to taste Prem Rosaniyas, to taste what is that Madanakya Mahabhav of Srimati Radhika. And secondly, Rag Marg Bhakti Lok Karite Pracharan. It says he came to also give Rag Marg, which is what Vyasadeva spoke in many ways in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Now clearly he was going to disseminate the clear path of the mood of Braj Bhakti in the form of Rag Marg. But to whom did he give that? Rag Marg Bhaktalok. He gave to the bhaktas of all the previous incarnations. It's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prem naeva goparamanam kamam iti agamat pratam udava adayo apietan vajanti bhagavat priya. All of the devotees headed by Uddhav, to them he gave the path of Rag Marg. So Hanumanji could come as Murari Gupta, Uddhava could come as Paramananda Puri, Panch Pandavas could come as the son of Bhavananda Roy. In this way, to all the associates, Prahlad in the form of Haridas Thakur, all previous pure Vaishnavas, he gave to them the path of Rag Marg. But how will the rest of the world get it? How will this Adorja mercy manifest to everyone else? So Mahaprabhu is considered to be the Adorya Roop of Radha and Krishna. Adorya Roop means when their love and compassion combine together in such a way they take one form, and that one form emits a kind of mercy that is unfathomable for anybody to think of. But their mercy, as one form, Radha and Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it distributed its mercy to all the devotees of previous incarnations. But how would it come to the jivas? Therefore, when Mahaprabhu came, just like when Krishna came, all of his associates also descended with him. So similarly, when Mahaprabhu, Radha and Krishna combine and descend as the Adorja Roop, all of the associates of Radha and Krishna descend in Adorja Roop. So that means those who know and serve Krishna in the most intimate ways. Rupa Manjari comes in the Adorja Roop of Rupa Goswami. Lavanga Manjari, Sanatana Goswami. Guna Manjari, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Raga Manjari, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Vilasa Manjari, Jeev Goswami Pad. Raghunath Das Goswami, Rati, nicknamed Tulsi Manjari. They are the Adorja Roop of all the Manjari Palyadasis of Radhika. If they had not come into this world, Yan Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata Tan Braja Prema Mahanidhi Kutarika, the ocean of prema that Mahaprabhu came to give for all of us would have remained locked in a chest. Who was given the key to unlock that chest? Shri Rupa Goswami Pad, and by extension, all of our Goswami Varga. So they are the Adorja Roop. Therefore, in my Gurudev's Pranam mantra, he's glorifying Sri Krishna Leela, Katane Sudaksham. How? Adorja Madhurja, both. He's described the confidential pastimes of the highest kind of Braj Prem. But in his Adorja Katha, he's described the glory of Mahaprabhu, and every year for 3 days, he would put on this festival to glorify the Adorja Rupa of Sri Rupa Goswami Pad. Sri Rupa Goswami Pad, he was directly empowered by Mahaprabhu. So once my Gurudev mentioned, what kind of empowerment could Mahaprabhu, the combined form of Radha and Krishna, give to that person who is Rup Manjari? What is it that Rup Manjari does not know? Rup Manjari, she is the Rup of Radhika. What is unknown to her? Just like Lavanga Manjari is the beauty of Radhika, Rag Manjari her Rag, Rati Manjari her Rati, Gun Manjari her qualities, Vilas Manjari her pastimes. What is unknown to the Rup, the very Rup? So what Shakti, what power did Mahaprabhu give to Rupa Goswami? It is described that when Shukadev Goswami was speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, purposely, only indirectly, he would mention the name of Radhika. He mentioned in such a way that all of those who have proper adhikar, they can see that the name of Radhika is everywhere. But in general, he did not directly speak the name. Why? Radha nama prachanena murchita san masiko bhavet. If he had even mentioned the name of Radhika, because Shukdev Goswami is the Krita Shuk, the play parrot of Radhika. If he'd even mentioned the name of Radhika, Murchita, San Masiko bhavet, he may faint even for up to 6 months. How Rupa Goswami Pad, he could write Utkalika Valari, Stavamala, Hangshadut, Vidagda Madhava, Lalit Madhav, all Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, all Ujjal Nilamani, how he could write it? Because in one special place called Prayag, Prayag, if you know, is where the Ganga and Jamuna meet. What is the significance of Rupa Goswami's empowerment in that place? Jamuna is the Madhujamai rasa flow in Braj. The Ganga is the Adhujamai flow of rasa in Gaur-lila. At the place where these two come together, Mahaprabhu met privately at Dasra Ashrameda Ghat, because crowds were so much around Mahaprabhu. He took Rupa Goswami to Dasra Ashrameda Ghat. What is this Dasra Ashrameda Ghat? Dasra Ashrameda means the sacrifice of 10 horses. But here, this is not really the implication here. Here it means our senses, they are like horses. So our 10 senses, our knowledge acquiring senses, our senses, they're like horses. And they're always running in different directions. For those persons who get the shelter of Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu's associates, they can bring those 10 senses under the shelter of Mahaprabhu by sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Nam Sankirtan Yagya. So Mahaprabhu taught at this place of Yagya. Prayag means Yagya. Yaj is the root of Yagya, right? So Prayag, the most complete sacrifice. Mahaprabhu empowered Rupa Goswami at this place to distribute this knowledge of the most complete sacrifice, the Nam Sankirtan Yagya. What did he tell to Rupa Goswami? Vrindavananiyam rasakeli vaitam kalena nukta nija shakti yukta. He told what was in my Braj pastime. Some of the knowledge of that has been lost, because from the last day of Brahma, when Mahaprabhu appeared and gave the full knowledge, from that time, Kalena looked. Looked means lost. It has become lost. But now I've performed my pastimes again. And now coming in this Adhoja Lila, I am Shakti Ukta. I'm giving you my own Shakti, that you will be able to Darya Dharan Shakti. You will be able to hold your patience and write the entire nature of the ocean of Ras. Though he's giving one drop, Mahaprabhu told him, giving one drop, but you'll be able to, from that one drop, drown the entire world in the nature of this beautiful Braj Prem Ras. So Rupa Goswami was able to write all of these high class of granthas and explain the entire science of bhakti without fainting. Mahaprabhu gave this power. Darya means patience. Dhara means to hold. Shakti. He gave the power that he could keep his composure while he revealed the desire of Mahaprabhu to give this Rag Mag to the world. So the glory of Rupa Goswami Pad, and by extension our Goswami Varga, is that they took what it is that Mahaprabhu wanted to give. So Bhakti Sriyam, especially this mood, which is so rare. The Palyadasi Bhav to Radhika, Manjari Bhav is so rare. But to Sri Rupa Goswami Pad, and by extension of Goswami Varga, he revealed how all jivas, they could have access to the practice in such a way that there's some possibility in some lifetime we may obtain that goal. Even Vyasadeva, when he was writing Srimad Bhagavatam, he wrote first the Namaskaratmaka verse, very first verse. Then he wrote the second verse. It is called Vastu Nirdeshtatmaka. He explained, what is this book? Dharma Projita Kaitavatra Paramano Nimatsuranam Satam. For those people who are able to give up all self-interest, that means nirmatsarya, to give up all interest, except for the interest of Anukul Seva to Krishna. For those persons, he's written this Bhagavatam. But don't fear, if you cannot do that immediately, Haribol. So if you cannot do that immediately, he told in the Faustuti verse, Pi Bhatta Bhagavatam Rasayam Alayam. Alayam means until you can do it, this Bhagavatam will be like a medicine for you to help you purify yourself to come to that point. But in that same third verse, Faustuti verse, he also wrote, it's also called Asibad verse, he wrote, Aho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. So there are many words in Sanskrit that are like expressions of a feeling. Aho is one of those words. So Vyasadeva then also saw, Aho, what magnificent thing did I see? Aho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. On this earth, Bhuvi, on this earth, there will be so many Rasik Babu Vaishnavas roaming here to give what I described in the very first verse of Bhagavatam. They'll be roaming this earth. And my blessing to you is that you'll meet one Vaishnava like that. That's the blessing that Vyasadeva is giving in the Faustuti verse of Bhagavatam. He realizes how this will happen in the concluding verse, Upasanghara verse of Bhagavatam, which is the very last verse. I've already described that verse, I'm not repeating. So in this way, we can understand that Sri Rupa Goswami Pad is that Adorja Rup, personification of the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Without Rupa Goswami, the treasure of this divine prem could not have been opened. And by extension,
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you got a couple more minutes.
Good, I'll wrap up.
Yeah.
I'll wrap up. Then by extension, our entire Guru Vargas are the extension of that mercy of Sri Rupa Goswami. Therefore, we take the prayer of Narottam Das Thakur. Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, Shai Mor Shampada, Shai Mor Bhajana Pujan. Everything that we're doing is really not to obtain only Radha Dasyam. That is the general category. Our bhajan and puja is directly to obtain the lotus feet of Shri Rup Manjari. And the way you obtain the feet of Rup Manjari, Rupa Goswami himself described, you have to do Raja Lokanusarata. Seva Sarika Rupena Sirupena Chatrahi, Tad Bhava Lipsunakara, Raja Lokanusarata. In this world, you have to follow how Rupa Goswami did bhajan and how they taught to practice bhakti. That knowledge has come down to Guru Parampara, to our Guru Vargas, and to our individual Vyasti Gurus. And so we're very blessed to have that mercy. So again, we cannot really glorify Rupa Goswami, but by remembering some of these things, we can be blessed to be inspired to take up this practice. Amai Dandavat Pranam, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for taking us to Vraj and sharing with us your beautiful insights about Ashtasakis and about how we should be honoring and following in the path of Rupa Manjari. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam as always. Haribol. Our next speaker is Avadut Maharaj. Avadut Maharaj, if you could unmute yourself. Maharaj, I see you. Yeah, perfect. Maharaj, you got 25 minutes as you, if it is possible for you to come on video, Maharaj, so that we all can have your darshan.
All right, sure.
Perfect. Maharaj, you got 25 minutes, so as you get closer to the end of your time, I'll kind of give you a heads up. So it's all yours. Haribol.
Haribol, thank you very much. Om Ganatavadasya Ganasya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Krishna Prabhupada Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namaha. Guru Guru Shandaya Radhika Jale Krishna Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namaha. Namaha Vishnupada Krishna Vasai Buddha Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Vachara Deva Sheshashwar Devani Vaskacha Dasachadare. Namaha Vishnupada Krishna Vasai Buddha Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamani. Namaha Vishnupada Radhikai Payapari Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Tanamani. Krishna Lila Kari Sadaksha Vadaya Varuya Garaksham Bala Varinda Purushamata Maitwa Srikanamami. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, after my dad was pronounced the Lord the Master, sorry for God. Loyal at the Lord's feet of my Sanyaskuru, Sikshaguru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Nagaswami Raj, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. So, this very fallen soul was no qualifications this week, and who somehow or other got the good fortune of hearing from some exalted souls as Gaur Govinda Swami, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. I'll say something. So, today is the most fortunate day for us to remember the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami. He is Avideya, means the process of bhakti. So, I was thinking of the order that Rupa and Sanatan were given to go to Braj and establish temples, discover or rediscover the lost places of pilgrimage, as well as to compose books. So this is a Kali Yuga, and everything has, problems, difficulties due to the nature of the Yuga. So even though Rupa Goswami established Radha Govinda Temple in Vrindavan, still some years later it was demolished by the religious zealots leaving only, practically just one floor, 2 floors. And then the deity, of course, had to be transferred to Jaipur out of fear that they would demolish and ruin the deity. So temple worship has its place, but it is fraught with difficulties. But establishing the principles of bhakti through literature is, in my mind, the crowning glory of Rupa Goswami. And, we all know the crown of that literature is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And it has been commentated upon by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So apparently, of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also considered this book of prime importance. And his composition is very much appreciated. Of course, sometimes we hear it said that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is like the incarnation of Rupa Goswami because of his Sanskrit poetry and his compositions. So these Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is also accompanied by 2 dramas, Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava, and Laghu Bhagavatamrita. But still, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu should be considered of prime importance in regard to the actual process of execution of bhakti. So, there are several
Excuse me, Maharaj.
Goswami. Just to
Haribol Maharaj. Your voice is breaking out. I was wondering maybe if you could shut your camera, maybe it'll help you improve your bandwidth.
okay, how's that?
Yeah, much better, Maharaj.
Much better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat some of the verses which Rupa gave to us to understand what is bhakti. And from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we have the verse Ataha Krishna Krishna Namadi Namavikanam Indayas Seva Mukhi Jivaru Swayam Evas Vratyalaha. So this verse means initially the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna cannot be perceived by the materially conditioned senses of the body jiva. However, if one who has a favorable mood towards Krishna renders devotional service through the same senses, beginning with the tongue, that Krishna will certainly reveal himself in his personal form. So, to attain transcendence is essential to engage our senses, Rishikesh, Rishikesh, Seva, Bhakti Uchite, in the service of Rishikesh, Krishna, beginning with the tongue. So, that means hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and taking Mahaprasadam. Those are the functions of the senses in relationship to bhakti. And by that chanting, prasad, in the remnants of the Lord's prasad, the tongue becomes purified. And an example is if you have an iron rod, and an iron rod is placed in a fire, then eventually, over time, that rod will become just like fire. And therefore, the force and the power of bhakti will be infused onto the soul who follows that principle. So, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has so many wonderful verses. So we are here now, engage our tongue, and furthermore, reciting some of those principles. Now, Bhakti is composed of two paths, with two subdivisions. And those subdivisions are Vriti Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. So they're one path with two divisions. And it is said initially, those who are Vriti Bhakti will be a little bit confused or started by Raganuga Bhakti, since it is has different ways and means. Now, this is brought out by three essential verses, which I'll quote here from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Krishna Smaram Jalam Jasya Vishtam Nijasmritam Tat Tat Tata Lasta Sho Kuryat Vasam Vajisara. So the definition is in English, one should constantly remember one's dearest Lord Sri Nandanandana and the beloved associates of Krishna who possess the Tirobhav, or the identical mood for which one aspires. One should remember that devotee's endeavors, his contradictory moods, and so forth. And one should always reside in Braj, Vrindavan, with great attachment for hearing topics regarding Krishna and his eternal associates. If one is physically unable to live in Braj, then one should engage in such service monthly. So, Rupa Goswami asked Lord Chaitanya to please give him some instructions directly. And because initially Rupa was sent to Sarup Damodar and to learn everything from him. But nonetheless, Lord Chaitanya did tell Rupa Goswami not to hear gossip, and not to talk gossip, not to eat luxurious food, not to dress in a very fashionable way, as well as Manasi Seva, to always engage in the mental service of Sri Radha and Krishna. So this mental service, Manasi Seva, is done with the mind. Smaranam. So Smaranam is a principal limb of this Raganuga Bhakti, remembering the Lord. As for Krishna's own instructions in Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Mamana Bhava Madbhakto Mamji Mamaskuru. The Mamana Bhava, you should always remember me. Mamana, with your mind. Think of me. So we can think of Krishna, his name, his form, his pastime, his qualities, by many of the examples which are given by Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, initially, all of the 64 angas of bhakti are given, simply hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping. But Rupa Goswami also recites many leelas and pastimes in Bhaji Raja Sindhu to give one a practical knowledge of the Lord's activities. So the devotee who is eyeing to attain Krishna through the path of Rag remembers those pastimes and remembers also the associates of Krishna, because it is said one cannot, approach the Lord directly. As Krishna says, one who says it's my devotee is really not my devotee, but those who say there's a devotee of my devotee are actual devotees. So we should always go through the Tadiya, or the associate of the Lord, and that way the access is much more rapid. So everyone has some certain favorite devotee and rasa, but Lord Chaitanya principally came to give this Unattajwala Bhakti Shriya, the unexcelled mood of conjugal love in the service of Sri Radha. So that is Manjari Bhav. So Mahaprabhu came to give that Manjari Bhav, and of course, Rupa Goswami is none other than Rupa Manjari, the most intimate servant of Sri Radha. So those who are inspired so much by Rupa Goswami can also contemplate his form as Rupa Manjari and the service that she renders to Sri Radha. So we've established, or Srila Gurudev Narayan Goswami Maharaj has established Radha Dasham, the service to Radha, as our sajya, as our principal goal. So with that principle, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari is unexalted, so exalted. But nonetheless, like a big point, anyone who is engaged in that Radha Dasham as his inspiration. So the second verse in the relationship to Raganuga, also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is Seva Sadhaka Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chittari, Tadvav Siddhakarya, Braja Lokara Sartaha. So the meaning of that is a devotee sadhaka who has developed greed or Raganuga Bhakti should serve Krishna both in his sadhaka roop and in his siddha roop, in accordance with the Bhav of the Brajvasis who possess the same mood for which he aspires. So this is a twofold platform, a Siddha Bhav and Sadhaka Bhav. So our physical form is a Sadhaka form, and it can be engaged in the principal levels of bhakti, practically by serving the deity of Lord, by engaging in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, by hearing and chanting, and Swaranam, again, remembering. So everyone has to do this, and you cannot jump over these principles. Some people may have the misconception that Raganuga can replace Vedi Bhakti because it is superior. They
Organizing staff.
They avoid the principles of Vedi Bhakti and make life, as they think, easier and quicker. But this is not established fact. And this is also pointed out by Rupa Goswami in a subsequent verse where he says, Shravana Kirtanandiri Vadi Bhakti Uttani Tu Yani Ganita Jnani Atra Prikyai Manishivi, which is to say, the angas of bhakti, such as Shravat Kirtan, Sri Guru Padashraya, and others, have been described in regards to Vedic bhakti, but are recognized by intelligent devotees to be also very useful and necessary in Raganuga bhakti. So we are aspirants of Raganuga bhakti. We're not so self-realized that we have actually achieved that platform. But the principle is you render Vedic bhakti with even more enthusiasm for those very principles. So it is not a rejection at all. It is an inclusion. So Vedic bhakti is included automatically within Raganuga by following the basic principles of hearing and chanting. But with rag, and rag means, of course, deep attachment, deep attachment. And of course, our attachment first goes to our guru, our spiritual master, without which we cannot get bhakti. So, therefore, when we rise in the morning, the first thing we chant is the Jai Jwari, offering our respects to our spiritual masters on the line of Rupa Bhakti Acharyas. And that is also brought out by Rupa Goswami in his verse, Guru Padashayas Tasmat Krishna Dikshani Shikshanam Vishabheda Griseva Sadhu Bhanu Bhartanam. The first and foremost limb of bhakti is taking shelter of Guru, accepting Diksha, initiation, with removal of the anartas, receiving Siksha also, on the process of bhajan, and serving Sri Guru with intimacy and affection, and following the path of the previous acharyas. So we know there are two gurus. There are Diksha Guru, who is one personality, and Siksha Guru. So the Siksha Guru can be many personalities, but the Diksha Guru can only be one personality. So there is a statement about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, the one who just relies on one guru may find the path of bhakti to be very difficult. But rather one who accepts not just Diksha Guru, but Siksha Gurus will find the path much more revealing over the course of time. So therefore, the mula, the root of bhakti, is sadhusanga, hearing from the pure devotees. And even if one becomes himself a pure devotee and attains bhakti, great bhakti, still one continues to hear from exalted souls to inspire him. Like Rupa and Sanatana would discuss together the principles of bhakti, so much so that Sanatana had to chastise Rupa Goswami because they were talking together so long that Rupa Goswami wanted to offer some prasadam to Sanatana. So while they're discussing, Rupa Goswami was contemplating this matter, then a young girl came up and offered some rice, milk, and sugar, and some spices to Rupa and Sanatana. But nonetheless, they still continued to talk, and it's discussed Harikatha, Krishna Katha, Radha Katha, so much so that the girl came back and then prepared sweet rice and then over to Rupa and Sanatan. So finally they took a break, took some of the sweet rice. But when Sanatan tasted the sweet rice, he looked at Rupa and said, Rupa, this sweet rice is it is so amazing, so wonderful. I have never in my life tasted such a wonderful preparation as this that you have made. But it is so sweet and so wonderful that I think only one person is going to make the sweet rice. And that is Srimati Radharani. And if we take service from Srimati Radharani, it is our fault because we're supposed to engage in service to her. So we have committed a great error. A great error by doing this. So this way, Sanatan suddenly chastises his brother. And who can chastise Rupa Goswami? He is perfect. Everything he does is perfect. There was a time when Sanatan also said, Rupa, your composition comparing the braid of Radharani to a snake is a little bit unpalatable to me. Don't you think there could be another way of, another better example? So Rupa is so humble. In all his songs, he gives honor to Sanatana Goswami. So he said, oh, yes, brother, yes. So after that discussion, then Sanatana went to walking off. And when he was walking off, he noticed there was a bunch of girls playing on a swing. So as the girl on the swing had her hair braided and tied, and then they were Rupa Goswami looked closer. He thought, oh my God, it's a snake. And he began to shout, oh, girls, there's a snake on your head. So the girls, laughed at him. What do you mean a snake? So then Sanatana was taken aback and said, well, it's not a snake, it's a braid. So at that moment he had the realization, yes, that example of my brother is perfect. There's no fault at all. So Rupa is so exalted in his Sanskrit poetry that is incomparable. There is a video, in fact, on YouTube, which you can see something entitled like The Amazing Qualities of Rupa Goswami's Poetry. And his Sanskrit is so amazing that he can compose verses which were read, from beginning to end, glorify Krishna. But if you read the verse in the reverse order, backwards, in other words, you see he glorifies Lord Rama. So many examples you could see in this video of Rupa's excellence in this Sanskrit poetry. Then there was another criticism. We know how bad criticism is, because they say, whenever you criticize anybody, those qualities will come out of you. So we should refrain completely from all criticism. But Rupa had written a verse, again in the Bhakti Raja Siddhu, Bhakti Bhakti Spriya Yavat Pustatya Yuridi Bhaktate, Tavat Bhakti Sukashatra, Kattavaju Tayo Bhavat. I believe it was Vallabhacharya who had mentioned this criticism because his translation is, as long as the two witches, maybe the desire.
What?
Please
Okay,
continue,
desire.
Maharaj. Yeah, my apologies for disturbance. Please continue.
3 leaves.
Like a maple.
Please continue, Maharaj. I think there was some disturbance from
Okay.
someone.
Shrikant Prabhu, I'm going to mute everybody and then
Uh,
ask Maharaj to unmute himself, okay? And then that will.
okay.
Yeah.
Again, the translation of that verse is as long as the two witches, namely the desire for material enjoyment and the desire for impersonal liberation, remain with the sadhaka, how happiness of pure bhakti be awakened. So the objection was taken of it was employing the word Vasachi, which, like comparing these two parts of poison, Mukti and Mukti, to witches. But it is a perfect description because they can possess the mind like a witch and destroy bhakti altogether. So, despite the criticism, there was no fault at all by Rupa Goswami in using these two words at all. He's faultless. And we are so blessed to have him as our Acharya and Bhakti. I'm so blessed to be able to have all of the books so wonderfully commented on by my own guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in the form of his presentation of Nectar of Instruction and Nectar of Devotion. So these books are primary reading matter for those who aspire to take Bhakti. Then, in Nectar of Instruction, Shiva also says, Krishnasya chai parayavasi, vayasi vyopirada, Gudam chasya mudibhya vitas, tatrigira vidari, yat prastera vyala vashulabham, Kyam Pura Bhakti Bhajam, Tat Prevadam Sakurapi, Shalash Natura Vishkarati. This is actually verse number 11 in the Bhakti Resolution, already in the Upanishad, where it says, after further deliberation on the matter, the sages have unanimously declared that just as amongst all the gopis, Srimati Radhika is the foremost object of Krishna's great love, and precisely the same way this pond of hers, Radhakund, is also the topmost object of his love. Upon one who is simply bathes in his waters just once with great devotion, Sri Radhakund bestows that rare treasure of Gopi Prema, which is so immensely difficult to attain, even for dear devotees of Bhagavan as Nadamuni, or just weak of heart sadhakas. So those who have been on Tirtha Yatra with Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, this was one of the great highlights of the parikrama, coming to Radhakund and bathing at Radhakund. And Gurudev gave us permission to bathe. Some exalted devotees also, however, consider that Radhakund is not different from Radha, so how can I put my feet in this kund? You can only do it if you get the permission of the pure devotee, Mahabhagat. And I remember years ago when we first came to Radhakund, some of the male devotees who were a little whimsical started doing backflips and somersaults into Radhakund, thinking that this is a nectar tank and making a little bit of a joke of it. So Srila Prabhupada heard about this and he immediately forbade anyone from breathing in Radhakund because they did not have the mood of devotion. You know, it says here, it says, one who simply praises the Radhakun with great devotion. So doing backflips and frontflips as a Radhakun is not a matter of devotion. And there was another comment by Srila Maharaj. Now we should approach Radhakun from afar. Not that we're so exalted that we can live with Radhakun, directly approach Radha. So he says, better we stay in Govardhan. From Govardhan, you know, the distance to Radhakun is not that far. Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj has mercifully established Gaudiya Mats in Govardhan, where devotees could reside, and then from there take recourse to go to Radhakun. So our principal anga, as far as Kirtan, is chanting the holy names. And there is Shrita Nam, which is the prayer chanting, in which Krishna appears on the tongue. And our aspiration is to associate with those who are Srila Bhaktis, who chant this prayer name, and by that infusion of bhakti from their heart, be able to also chant without offense. Because Radha and Krishna consider offenses, or 10 offenses to the holy name. So to appreciate the holy name, one has to transcend these 10 offenses. But the name itself is glorified in the Vedanta Madhava by Sri Rupa Goswami, when he says, Karana Krodha Karambhidi Katayate. Right. Tunde Tadavini Ratyam Padadate Tandavali Labde. Karana Krodha Karambhidi Katayate. Kadabhave Vyas Vyam. Chitta Pankana Sangiri Vijayate. Savadriyanam Kritim. Nojane Jarita Kriyatpir Avatai Krishnati Varnadoi. So this verse from Vedanta Madhava describes, I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. When the desire to have many, many mouths appears. When the name enters the holes of the ears, which is our many millions of ears, when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert. So like it says, when you chant the mantra, your mind should merge with the mantra, and the mantra should merge with your mind. We know Haridas Thakur was Namacharya chanting 3 lakhs for the holy name daily. But so the Gurudev says, we cannot say how many rounds Sri Rupa Goswami was chanting. You know, we never say Rupa was chanting 3 lakhs or 2 lakhs or 1 lakh, because there was so much nectar of the holy name that Rupa Goswami could fall into ecstasy very easily.
Haribol Maharaj, sorry to interrupt. You got a couple of minutes. We are coming to the end of your speaking time.
Okay, so I'll just recite one more verse, which is very important. And that is the results of bhakti given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Rupa Goswami says, Shakti Shivada Mokshala Krita Sudurlava Sandandana Vishashatva Shri Krishna Kashiri Tisha. So this is results are manifest one after the other. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambari explains in complete detail these 6 manifestations. So they are: 1, Kleshagni. Bhakti destroys all kinds of distress. 2, Shuvada. Pure Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti, owes all kinds of good fortune. 3, Moksha Lakutakrit. Pure Bhakti makes the pleasure of a personal liberation appear to be insignificant. 4, Chidurlava. Pure Bhakti is rarely achieved. 5, Sadhanana Visheshapma. Pure Bhakti is imbued with the most intense superlative bliss. And body number 6, Sri Krishna Kaushali. Shri Bhakti is the sole means to attract Krishna. So these 6 manifestations, if we initially started Bhakti by the removal of distress. Everyone has a load of karma when they come to Krishna consciousness. But when you accept initiation, Diksha from a pure devotee, it is compared to pulling out a plug on a fan. The fan may continue to move, but because the electricity is cut off, gradually the fan blades will stop. So it's not automatic. You come to Bhakti, you engage in devotional service, and gradually those karmic reactions are completely nullified. And the analysis is given in at what level one's Bhakti is, partial, complete, absolutely complete removal of those disturbances, klesha. Right? Klesha means disturbance and agni is fire. So by the fire of Bhakti, all those karmic reactions are turned into ashes. Then Shivara. Shivara means good fortune. So Bhakti makes it happen, spiritually and materially. And many devotees become blessed in so many different ways by infusion of Bhakti in the heart. So it is Shivara, very good, So if we want the good times to roll, we have to engage in the process of Bhakti and aspire with greed in our heart, lobha, maya, for actual Bhakti. So actual Bhakti is Raganuga Bhakti. So Vedic Bhakti is a little practice, but we know practice makes perfect. But if you execute all those lives of Bhakti, eventually Siddha, perfection awakens. So we should be very hopeful for that. Then, Moksha Lagata Krit, the personal liberation is very attractive, actually. And we have found that many of our so-called quantum physicists who are studying the atom at deeper levels, the different repercussions of atomic energy, become very attracted to the impersonal idea of God, being formless, being everywhere. So it's very rare that actually the next point is that Bhakti is Sudurlabha, very rare. So very rarely among those quantum physicists, and of course people in general, do those impersonalists find the attraction there in Srila Bhakti. And examples are given of the 4 Kumars, who are also attracted to impersonal liberation until they smell the aroma of the flavor of the tulsi leaves attached to the Lord's lotus feet. So that is point number 4. And then Sandananda Visheshatma means the bliss. It's a superlative bliss. We say Mahananda or Sevananda. Sevananda has so much more pleasure that the pleasure of a personal liberation is compared to the water contained within the hoofprint of a cow, as opposed by the great ocean of unlimited ocean of transcendental devotional service. And the final last point, which we'll conclude our talk on, is Sri Krishna Kashiri, the bhakti or love, pure love from the heart, following in the footsteps of our exalted devotees, eternal students, perfected devotees, is the only way to attack Krishna. So, Guru Padashraya, we are following the footsteps of those who attain bhakti. Bhakti gives bhakti. So, if we serve those exalted devotees who have attained Srila Bhakti with faith and with reverence and with all seriousness, then by the mercy, Daya of the Lord Krishna, by the mercy of the devotees of Krishna, we can also attain that exalted level. So I'm praying that that may manifest in everyone's heart, sticking closely to the instructions of Srila Rupa Goswami, particularly, and the instructions of your Gurudev, and the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. So therefore, we always, on rising again in the mornings, pray the Jaidwani to all our gurus, to all our acharyas, to all the siddhas, and to the 6 Goswamis especially. So thank you very much. We should pray very hard, very seriously to Rupa Goswami, the dust of the Lotus feet of Rupa Goswami, to come on our head so that we may have a taste of what we aspire for, Krishna Prema Bhakti. So thank you very much. Vachakaputaduscha, Kripasidabhyocha, Vachitana Bhavarebhyo, Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for such a wonderful Nectarian class and taking us back to the foundation, which is Shuddha Nam, is so important. So thank you so much. Our next speaker is Anuradha Dasi. So Anuradha, you have until 2:45, but I think we might have some flexibility, so you will speak and then you also have Kirtan. It's all yours.
Okay.
Very well.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktabinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranam to the dust of the lotus feet to my Diksha Gurudev. Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnu Padasto Tarasata Shishmar Shada Bhakti Vigan Bharti Goswami Maharaj. That same unlimited Dandavat Pranam, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam unto the dust of the lotus feet of my beloved Harinam Guru, Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnu Padasto, Tarasata Shishman, Shrila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj, unto the entire Rupanub Guru Varga, unto all the Vaishnavas who were, who are and will be, unto the Bhakti Zoom Seva team, unto my seniors and my Siksha Gurus, my Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna. So this is a very high topic, way beyond my pay grade, but somehow or other my name was mentioned, and so I'm here to offer some Puspanjali from what I've heard and gleaned from our beloved Srila Gurudev. The one question that pops up, at least for me, is why Srila Gurudev decided to inaugurate this festival of the remembrance of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad on his Tirobhav Tithi. So what is a Viraha Mahotsav? Viraha Mahotsav is the separation, but this is a festival of separation. And what is the need for festival of separation? That it strengthens one's bhajan. It strengthens one's desire to want to come onto the dust of the lotus feet of that particular Vaishnava or that particular aspiration that the Mahotsav is done for. So Srila Gurudev, he invited so many sadhus and acharyas on this day. Well, it would be tomorrow, and therefore was able to perform a sankirtan of Viraha. And so this is a very, very auspicious time that we also can cherish and be able to serve that current of conception that we have received from our Srila Gurudev and also from the entire Rupanub Guru Varga. Because the entire Rupanub Guru Varga is only following after Srila Rupa Goswami. They are not following simply Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because they recognize that the doorway to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srila Rupa Goswami. So without Srila Rupa Goswami, it would be impossible to understand the mood and innermost heart's desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We know the Pranam mantra that Srila Narottam Das Thakur has given in Sri Prem Bhakti Chandrika, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. That when will Srila Rupa Goswami, who has understood the innermost heart's desire, give me his shelter? Innermost heart's desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, give me his shelter. Srila Gurudev has mentioned that Srila Rupa Goswami is the original and most revered Guru Pad Padma of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, of all Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So this is a very amazing festival that Srila Gurudev inaugurated, that we have also understood from the bhajan, Yan Kali Rupa, that was famously sung many times by Krishnadas Prabhu on the request of our Srila Gurudev. That, and this bhajan was composed by Sri Madhav Das, that had it not been for Srila Rupa Goswami, who was able to open the treasure house of Vraj Prem, that what would we be like? That what would have been our outcome? That how would we have been able to tolerate this existence? So similarly, just as Srila Rupa Goswami has opened that treasure house, has opened that storehouse of Braja Prem, which was given by in the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We also know the bhajan of Narahari Sarkar, Jadi Gauranga Nahito, Tabi ki hoito, Kemano Dhorito de, Radhara Mahima, Prema Rasa Simha, Jagate Janato ke. That here, Sri Narahari Sarkar is saying, if Sri Gauranga had not appeared, then what would become of us? how would we have survived? Who could have taught the world about the glories of Srimati Radharani and the topmost limit of Prema Ras? So this is given and illuminated by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad in all of his tikas, in all of the Ujjwal Nilamani, nectar of instruction, nectar of devotion, all of our various processes of even doing archan, of doing arti, of doing our bhajan is given by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. So just as Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has opened that storehouse, that treasure house of the coveted bhakti ras, which was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and was able to open the floodgates essentially of filling the entire world with this bhakti ras, this prem, that in a similar way that our beloved Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj, he also was able to open the floodgates of the Mahima of Srila Rupa Goswami by this very festival, this Viraha Mahotsav festival, this Smaran festival of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. We owe him so much indebtedness. We owe him so much for us to even be able to glorify Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. And not only to spend some time glorifying him, but to spend multiple days, a full conference Srila Gurudev would arrange. So this is something so magnanimous of our Srila Gurudev. But Srila Gurudev is not giving something new. We should understand that Srila Gurudev is following in a line of Rupanug Dhara, of Rupanug Vichar Dhara, this Rupanug Guru Varga. They're following after. Vichar means the conceptions, Dhara means current. So the entire Rupanuga Guru Varga is following after the current of the conceptions of Srila Rupa Goswami. So this is not just so explicit and isolatory to just our Srila Gurudev, but the Mahima of our Srila Gurudev comes in because he has invited so many sadhus to also come and join. So a whole Sankirtan party was there in order to be able to spread the Mahima. And by this, our ultimate kalyan comes, our ultimate benefit comes. So we owe so much gratitude to our Guru Pada Padma as well. And just as I mentioned, that this was not some isolated event in terms of that our Guru Parampara was also not following. That Srila Gurudev has also said in one lecture that he gave on the eve of Guru Purnim. I will just read here. This was in 2008, he mentioned in Keshavji Gauriya Math. It is necessary that one understand Srila Rupa Goswami's special contribution to our Sampradaya and why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world. In essence, it was to specify our life's highest and most prominent goal, to become a particle of dust at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, to become a maidservant of Srimati Radhika under the guidance of Srila Rupa Goswami. This is the sole cherished aspiration for all our previous Guru Varga. So even Srila Narottam Das Thakur, in his first Prartham Bhajan, Gauranga Bolite Habe Pula Ka Sharir, that twice he mentions the lotus feet of Rupa Raghunath. Why also Raghunath Das Goswami? Because Raghunath Das Goswami is principal Rupanuga Acharya. So Rupa Raghunatha Pade Haive Akuti, with eagerness, Akuti, that I am aspiring after the lotus feet of Rupa Raghunath Pade, I'm their lotus feet. And then again, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Rahu Mora Asha. Pratana Kore Naruttamadasa, that this is my only sole supplication, my only prayer is to, and my only desire, Rahu Mora Asha, that this is my only desire is to have the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Raghunath, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami. Also, Srila Narottam Das Thakur is also mentioned in Rupanug Mahatmya, this one bhajan, that Suniyachi Sadhu Mukhe Bolo Sarva Jana, Shri Rupa Kripai Mila Jugala Charana. That Srila Narottam Das Thakur is saying that I've heard from many sadhus' mouths that by approaching the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, that I can attain the lotus feet of Shri Jugal Kishore, Shri Jugal Charan. that if we are to approach, and later on in that bhajan, that he also mentions that when will my beloved Srila Gurudev Lokanath Das Goswami, when will he offer me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami? This is also our aspiration too, and be it in my case very far away, but still it is our supplication even to our Srila Gurudev that, hey Srila Gurudev, when will you offer me to the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami? Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, Srila Rupa Manjari, in a very high place. But first, Srila Gurudev has said that we must surrender this Sharanagati. So when we actually have Sharanagati, not just the 6 parts of Sharanagati, but Sharanagati in its truest form, that automatic humility will arise and we will realize that we have nothing else in this world other than their lotus feet, other than the lotus feet of Guru Pada Padma, other than lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and also Shri Gaura Sundar. We can even approach Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in understanding this, that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he prays that to the 2 acharyas that he mentioned, 2 acharyas of Sharanagati, Rupa Sanatan Pada Dhuli Trini Kari, Bhakti Vinod Pada Duhu Pada Dhari. That Bhakti Vinod Thakur places a straw between his teeth and falls before Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, clasping their feet, crying incessantly, praying to elevate him by teaching him Sharanagati. So even approaching our Srila Gurudev and having Sharanagati first unto Guru Pad Padma, then it comes naturally that elevation will come, that one day we can actually have that aspiration. We still have that aspiration, but what I'm saying is that we will then actually possibly one day become eligible to then be offered to the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. So do I have a little bit more time? Is there still more time?
Yeah, Anuradha, we have 2 more minutes.
Okay. So I'll just conclude with these 2 things, that Srila Rupa Goswami, who is also Sri Rupa Manjari, that has revealed the necessity of taking to the shelter of the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika. And in this particular verse, Anaradhya Radha Padam Bhuja Renu, and then I will go very quickly to our Srila Prabhupada. If you have never worshipped the dust of the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika, or the land of Braj, which is marked with the impressions of her lotus feet, or have not served the lotus feet of those devotees who taste the profound loving sentiments of Srimati Radhika, how can you become immersed in the blackish ocean of nectar known as Sham Sindhu Ras? So the question then becomes that if this was what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give, which is this Swabhakti Shriyam, this very exclusive devotion of the Vraja Devis, of the damsels of Braj, and was able to also specifically this Manjari Bhav, which was not only so high, but which is something that he has so mercifully not given any other time, any other place before. Then it comes the next question, that is our Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, that is he also following in the same line? Absolutely. Of course, there's no question. Our Srila Gurudev has mentioned like this, and Srila Prabhupada himself has also established this point very emphatically, that in coining the term of Krishna consciousness from Sri Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati, Bhakti Rasa is what? It is given in the indication of this Raganuk Bhajan. So ISKCON, or International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is going towards Raganuk Bhajan only. This Raganuk Bhajan is according to those who are in Raja Prem, who are practicing those moods within Raj, those particular rasas. And not only that, but also Srila Prabhupada's Bhajan Sthali was situated within Sri Radha Damodar Mandir, which is the gully of Seva Kunj. And not only that, but the other deities there of Srila Jayadev Goswami and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami are also present there. Also the deities of Bhugarba Swami and the Srila Sri Giriracharan Shila of Srila Sanatana Goswami is also present there. So there was no dearth of association for Srila Prabhupada and his bhajan stali for many years prior to coming to the West. Not only that, he also had many sportis of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, who also told him, now is the time for you to go to the West. And I will leave with this point. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Mangalacharan, he wrote this Mangalacharan in Gitar Gan. This is the Gitar Gan, which is the Bengali translation of Bhagavad Gita. Vrindavan, I'll just read the English. Vrindavan is a charming place, and situated there in the grove known as Sevakunj is a sacred temple of Sri Radha Damodar. I take the lotus feet of those deities as my only shelter, and I petition them to be kind upon me and guide me to life's ultimate goal. So even our Srila Prabhupada is also topmost Rupanug. So our entire Rupanug Guru Parampara, stemming from the Saptam Goswami, Srila Bhaktivinoda Goswami, stemming even from Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, all of them are following after the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami. So this is not isolated events that our Srila Gurudev has only presented to the world, this Rupanug Bhajan, this Rupanug Vichardhara. It has been there always. But Srila Gurudev's Mahima has illuminated it, and he was able to perform mass Sankirtan of this glorification of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. So I will conclude with that. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I don't think there's time for kirtan, but I am offering if there's time at the end, maybe. Otherwise, then we can leave it there. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you, Anuradha, for such a wonderful nectarian discussion and bringing us to the congruence of all our Guru Parampara. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Adi Gadadhar Prabhu. Adi Gadadhar Prabhuji, if you could unmute yourself and come on camera, we'll appreciate it. Adi Gadadhar Prabhuji is ISKCON Congregation Director of Atlanta. I have a great association and fortune with Prabhuji for a long time. There are many people who speak with intellect. There's people who speak with bhakti. Adi Gadadhar Prabhu embodies both intellect and bhakti. So thank you, Prabhuji. Looking forward for your katha. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, dear Shrikant Prabhu. Shri Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha. Madhuryojvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute. Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dhvantaharine. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambhara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. Gauravirbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathayate Namaha. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I am very grateful and honored to be on this Sangha today, glorifying the most prominent Acharya of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. In fact, our Sampradaya is the Rupanuga Sampradaya. So today we have come together to glorify Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is the most prominent disciple and follower of Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Dev. Srila Rupa Goswami importance can be understood on two levels. One is the external importance of Srila Rupa Goswami, which is he is the most eminent Acharya who teaches us bhakti as established by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But on the second level, which is the internal level, Srila Rupa Goswami is actually giving us the Manjari Upasana, Radha Dasyam, service to Srimati Radharani in the mood of the young maid servants of Srimati Radharani, headed by Sri Rupa Manjari. Sri Rupa Manjari, who is the second self of Sri Radha, manifested in this world as Sri Rupa Goswami in Gaur Leela. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sri Krishna. Srila Prabhupada has given a summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In early 1970s, in the Western world, nobody knew about Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, fulfilling the desires of his spiritual master, his revered spiritual master, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada, had ordered Swami Maharaj on the banks of Sri Radhakund that if you ever get money, you print books and you spread the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, spread the message of Sri Rupa Raghunath in the English language. So in the English language, there was no book available giving authentic information about Sri Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada published the Krishna book, establishing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead all over the world in the international language, English language. And one of the greatest inspirations in my life, my Shiksha Guru and someone I really look up to, Shri Srimad Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. I never had the good fortune of meeting Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj, but his books, his katha, they have really affected my heart. And Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj explains that although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna theoretically teaches in Bhagavad Gita how to surrender to him, he gives the instruction, give up everything else and just surrender to me. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. But this Sharanagati is the lock, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj explains. Krishna gave the treasure chest of Krishna Prem. He gave us the box of Krishna Prem. But on that box, Krishna put a lock, a seal. And that seal is called Sharanagati. Put that lock. Without Sharanagati, one cannot get Krishna. Because Krishna himself puts that condition. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Then aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masuja. So Krishna told us the way. He gave us the treasure chest, but he gave us the treasure chest with a lock. And that lock is the lock of Sharanagati. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Vinod Thakur Mahashay, in his very beautiful song in the introduction of Sharanagati book, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Mahashay writes something very beautiful. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Daya Kori Swaparshad sviya dham saha avatari. Atyanta durlabha prema kori bareda. Shikhaye sharanagati bhakatera pran. This treasure chest that Krishna gave with a lock of Sharanagati on it, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and opened it and distributed that prem to everyone. Atyanta durlabha prem, because nobody could crack that lock of Sharanagati. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu removed that condition of Sharanagati also. He broke open the lock. Therefore, Atyanta durlabha prem kori bare dan. That prem which is almost impossible, Atyanta durlabh means practically impossible to get. Kori bare dan. He's giving it in charity. Giving it free. Take it. Atyanta durlabha prem kori bare dan. How? Shikhaye sharanagati bhakatera pran. Because Mahaprabhu is teaching us sharanagati, giving it very easily so that we can receive prem. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made it very easy for us. He plundered the treasure chest of Krishna prem and freely distributed it. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us sharanagati so we can access Krishna prem. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us the sharanagati through his intimate devotees, like Srila Haridas Thakur, like Srila Sanatan Goswami, like Srila Rupa Goswami. Through his most intimate disciples, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us sharanagati. If we examine the lives of Sri Rupa, Sri Sanatan, Sri Raghunath, all our Goswamis, they are lives that exemplify sharanagati. And I would like to emphasize on this point in my 25-minute talk, how sharanagati is being taught by Srila Rupa Goswami. And in order to access the higher realms of bhakti, we have to first take shelter of Krishna through sharanagati. Rupa sanatana pade dante trina dhori bhakati vinoda pode dui padadhari. Kandiya kandiya bole amito adhama shikhaye sharanagati koro he uttama. If we want to uplift ourselves, we have to learn sharanagati. And Srila Rupa Goswami so beautifully exemplifies sharanagati. He was born in a very high class, very pure Brahman, Saraswat Brahman family that came from Karnataka to Bengal. And Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Sri Vallabh, who later on became Anupam, they were so intelligent, they were so cultured, they were so perfect in everything they did. They were linguists, they knew Urdu, they knew Arabic, they were masters of Sanskrit, of course Bengali, and so many other languages, Persian. And they just didn't know the languages, but they knew all the prominent texts. They had studied all philosophy, texts, arts. They were just thoroughly perfect gentlemen. And Nawab Hussain Shah took notice of that and practically blackmailed them into serving him. You serve me, or I will not just persecute you, but also the entire Hindu society. So for everyone's welfare, they took up that service. But even while staying in the headquarters of Nawab Hussain Shah, which at that time was Ramakeli, they maintained their Vraj Bhakti. And they created something called as Gupta Vrindavan in Ramkeli, where they created Shamakund, Radhakund, beautiful Govardhan. And the brothers would just roam in that Gupta Vrindavan, remembering Bhauma Vrindavan, remembering the Aprakat Vrindavan. His Divine Grace, Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, has given us so many beautiful books. But one of my most favorite books of all is a book written by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj called Shri Radha, our supreme shelter. This is simply a phenomenal book, and I highly recommend it to everyone. Shri Radha, our supreme shelter, by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Such a beautiful book it is. In that book, Srila Narayan Maharaj explains that there are three types of dhams. There is the Prakata Dham, the dham if we go to Vrindavan today, the dham that we see with these two eyes is the Prakata Dham. It is a Drishyaman Dham, I beg your pardon, the Drishyaman Dham. And when Krishna was performing his Leela 5,000 years ago, the dham that was visible, that is the Prakata Dham. And Krishna's eternal pastimes that are going on in Golok Vrindavan, that is the Aprakat Vrindavan. We cannot see it with our eyes, but it's always there. So Aprakat Vrindavan, Prakat Vrindavan, when Krishna was there on earth, and what we see today is the Drishyaman Dham. But Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis, they created a fourth type of Vrindavan called Nava Vrindavan or Gupta Vrindavan, where they recreated some of the Leela Sthalis of Vrindavan Dham so that they would feel separation from Vrindavan. And they did that for many years. They would study Bhagavatam, read all the bhakti texts, and just remember Vrindavan, being in Ramkeli while performing their duties. Antare nishtha karo bahya lok vyavhar, achirata Krishna tomai koribe uddhar. And they would write letters to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now they were very high-ranking ministers, Home Minister and Prime Minister to Nawab Hussain Shah, who was the king of Bengal. And Bengal at that time was not the West Bengal that we have in India. It was much bigger, the whole Bangladesh and West Bengal together. So they would write letters to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressing their devotion and love to him, requesting permission to come and be with him, to join him, serve in his mission. And they never got any reply from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But during Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's second attempted trip to Sri Vrindavan Dham from Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Ramakeli. It was a detour, but still Mahaprabhu took that detour and he came to Ramakeli. It's a long story described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj. Very beautiful meeting that took place when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Sanatan that you are my eternal associates. You are my servants birth after birth. And I have come to Ramakeli just to meet both of you. And he told them that Krishna has heard your prayers. Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, they prayed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Mahaprabhu, we don't deserve your mercy. In fact, we are more fallen than Jagai and Madai. They were not saying it like that, lip service. They actually meant it. Srila Rupa Goswami said, hey Mahaprabhu, Jagai and Madai, they were born in Brahman families. They might have committed some sinful activities, but they never accepted a sinful cow-eater, Vaishnav Drohi, mean person as their employer, as their master. They never accepted a master like Nawab Hussain Shah. But we are so fallen that being born in Brahmin families, we accepted service of Nawab Hussain Shah, who is very dedicated to breaking temples, to unnecessarily punishing devotees. And we served him. We are so fallen. In fact, we are serving him now, and therefore we don't deserve your mercy, even though you are most merciful. It was Srila Rupa Goswami who offered this beautiful prayer, Namo Mahavadanyaya, the pranam mantra of Srila Rupa Goswami. And one of our very prominent Vaishnava Acharyas, contemporary Vaishnava Acharyas in the line of Srila Prabhupada, Shri Srimad Radha Govinda Das Goswami Maharaj, who lives in Vrindavan and has for years spoken pure Harikatha in the Hindi language. Shri Srimad Radha Govinda Das Goswami Maharaj, when he does his Vyakhya on this pranam mantra of Srila Rupa Goswami, he reveals a very beautiful conversation that is happening between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Rupa Goswami. And I would like to share that with you. When Sri Rupa and Shri Anupam meet Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag. From a distance, they offer their Dandavat Pranam and they speak. Srila Rupa Goswami speaks this beautiful verse, Pranam Mantra, for, I beg your pardon, Pranam Mantra for Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Twise Namaha. Srila Radha Govindadas Goswami Maharaj explains, Srila Rupa Goswami says, Namo Mahavadanyaya. Namaha, my obeisances to you, O Mahavadanyaya. O Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Dev, you are Mahavadanyaya. You are very magnanimous. So Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Srila Rupa Goswami, O Rupa, what have I given you? What have I given anyone? I am just a beggar. I am a sannyasi. How can you call me Mahavadanyaya? So Srila Rupa Goswami says, Krishna Prema Pradayate. You are not giving away cows in charity or sacks of rice and grains in charity, giving away land in charity, giving away gold in charity. No, I'm not talking about that wealth. That wealth is prakrit. It is vyavaharik. It is temporary. It is kshanabhangur. It is temporary. It will be destroyed. I'm not talking about that wealth. Oh, you are Mahavadanyaya because you are the giver of the wealth of Krishna Prem. Namo Mahavadanyaya, Krishna Prem Pradayate. You are giving Krishna Prem. Shri Chaitanya also says, Krishna Prem. I am giving Krishna Prem. Hey Rupa Goswami, only Krishna can give Krishna Prem. Only Krishna can give Krishna Prem. I am just a sannyasi. Why are you saying I am giving Krishna Prem? How can I give Krishna Prem? Only Krishna can give Krishna Prem. So Srila Rupa Goswami says, Namo Mahavadanyaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya. You are Krishna only. Oh Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you are Krishna. Krishnaya, Krishna Chaitanya. Yes, your name is Krishna Chaitanya. You have come here to Prayag as a sannyasi and you are standing in the house of Shri Vallabhacharya. But you are sannyasi Swarup, but actually you are Krishna. Krishnaya, Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna has become Krishna Chaitanya. Brajendra Nandana Jai, Shashi Suto Hoilo say. Acha, I am Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies to Rupa Goswami, you are calling me Krishna. You are saying Krishna, Krishna Chaitanya. This Krishna Chaitanya is Krishna, Brajendra Nandan Krishna. Are, Brajendra Nandan Krishna is Shama Sundar. He's got a very beautiful complexion like a rain-filled cloud. So Srila Rupa Goswami says, Namne Gauratva Nama. Gauratva Nama. Yes, you are Krishna only, but you have come in the complexion of Srimati Radharani. Gauratva. Your Kanti is Radha Kanti. Radha Bhava, Radha Dyuti, Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. You have Radha Bhav and you have Radha Dyuti. You have the complexion of Srimati Radharani. So this beautiful Pranam Mantra of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu given to us by Srila Rupa Goswami is got this very beautiful bhav. Namo Mahavadanyaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya, Namne Gauratva Nama. So you are Krishna, but in Gaura Varna. So this Srila Rupa Goswami, he offers his prayers to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that I am most fallen. I am more fallen than Jagai and Madai, and I do not deserve your mercy. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very pleased with the humility of Srila Rupa Goswami. He initiates Rupa and Sanatan Goswami by giving them names. Sakar Malik and Dabir Khas become Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. And Shri Vallabh becomes Shri Anupam. He initiates them and tells them, Krishna has heard your prayers, O Rupa Goswami, O Sanatan Goswami. Very soon you will be free from the clutches of this Nawab Hussain Shah. And you go to Vrindavan. And that what I wanted to do. Because of my mother's orders, I have to stay in Jagannath Puri. So you go to Vrindavan and you do what I wanted to do. Krishna Prema, Krishna Bhakti, Seva Pravartan, Lupta Tirtha Uddhara, Ar Vairagya Shikshan. This is the mission that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. You write books about Krishna Prema. You establish temples, which will be centers of spiritual education. You excavate the lost holy places and restore Vrindavan to its lost glory. You teach what is the ideal behavior of a renunciate, Vairagya Shikshan. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a mission to Srila Rupa Goswami. I will conclude by saying that the mission of Guru is also twofold. There is an external mission and there is an internal mission. External mission is jare dekho tare kaho Krishna upadesh. Amara gai guru hai tara desh. You preach, you bring everyone to the shelter of Krishna. And that is giving people their sambandha jnana, that Jivara Swarup hai Krishna Nityadas. Shripad Aindra Prabhu, one of the glorious followers of Srila Prabhupada, who for 24 years established the 24-hour Harinam Sankirtan in Shri Krishna Balram Mandir in Raman Treti Vrindavan. Sripad Aindra Prabhu used to say that Sambandha Jnana is of two types. There is Samanya Sambandha Jnana, where we know that we are a servant of Krishna, Jivara Swarup hai Krishna Nityadas. And then there is Vishesha Sambandha Jnana. Vishesha Sambandha Jnana means to understand our particular individual relationship with Radha and Krishna. Radha Krishna Seva Pao Ei Abhilashi. But what is that Seva? What is the Ekadasha Bhava? What are the 11 characteristics of our Swarup? That is Vishesha Sambandha Jnana. And the internal mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to give us Rupanuga, Raganuga, Vraj Bhakti. To give us Vraj Bhakti in the line of Sri Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is the Ragatmika Bhakta for us, Rupa Manjari. And to follow in her footsteps is Rupanuga Bhajan. And this Rupanuga Dhara is being given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. And we are very grateful to have received this external mission and internal mission, both of which were established by Srila Rupa Goswami and coming to us through our glorious Gaudiya Dhara. So with this, I will stop here. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Gaudiya Guru Varga ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Adigatara Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. It's a wonderful nectarian class. I think all the devotees who are here today, they really enjoyed and relished it. Thank you for also enlightening in terms of how we should be thinking about Rupa Goswami in terms of both internal mission and external mission, and about the unlocking the key through Sharanagati. So thank you always for your insightful comments, education, and Hari Bol, Dandavats.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Our next speaker is Prem Prayojan Das. Prem Prayojan Prabhuji, if you could unmute yourself and come on camera, would greatly appreciate. Prabhuji, can you hear me? I see you. Prem Prayojan Prabhuji, you are still on mute, so you need to unmute yourself. Yes, Prabhuji, Dandavats. Thank you so much for joining. And I would like to take this opportunity also to say for all the devotees, thank you for recently publishing this book on Gaudiya Darshan. It's still work in process for me, but thank you so much for non-native speakers for translating Saraswati Tosani commentary. So we, my Dandavats Pranam, and it's Prabhuji, you got another 25 minutes. So as you get closer to the bottom of your time, I will give you a heads up. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. My pranam. Is the sound okay? Can you hear?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can hear you clearly.
Nama Shrestam Manamapi Isachiputram Atra Surupam Rupam Tasya Krajamuri Purim Maturim Koshtuahitim Radha Kunda Magiribaram Ahoradika Madhvasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Guru Tam Natosmi Gurave Gaura Chandrayo Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. First of all, I offer my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands of times, at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmadiya Paramarada Tama Guru Pada Padma, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Ashtotarasada Sri Rupa Nugacharya Varya, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, and to Srila Prabhupada and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Vanchakalpaturvasa, Kripa Sindhu Bhayavata, Putitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. By the causeless mercy of Sri Guru and Gauranga, we are celebrating for several days during this festival of Julan Yatra the glorious contribution of Sri Rupa Goswami Pad. This tradition was established very strongly by our Gurudev Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj every year at this time in Seva Kunj. So, in regard to Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, he is known even among the secular scholars as a great poet. It is said, Upama Kalidasasya Bhairave Artha Gauravam Dandina Padalalityam Rupe Santi Trayo Gunaha. The great poet Kalidas, he's famous for filling his poetry with Upama Alankar, with very ingenious similes. The poet Bhairavi, he's famous for Artha Gaurava, that is, that in his poetry we find very profound and substantial meaning. And the poet Dandin, he's famous for the Padalalitya, that is the very sweet and gracious way in which he puts together his words and very beautiful vocabulary. But Rupe Santi Trayo Gunaha, we find that all three of these qualities are there to the maximum extent in Sri Rupa Goswami Pad. So even from the perspective of poetry, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad is considered topmost. But this does not even begin to touch Srila Rupa Goswami's glories. Why? Because the writing of Srila Rupa Goswami is not the result of some creative genius, but rather everything he wrote is Samadhi Bhasha. It is the language of trance. That which is written in Samadhi Bhasha, the language of trance, in this writing, the subject matter and the object which is being described are one indivisible reality. In other words, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad is not giving a poetic description of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, but rather Srila Rupa Goswami is directly giving Leela Bihari Sri Krishna and Mahabhav Swarupa Sri Radharani in their Vanmayi Murti. That means in the sound incarnation of his poetry. So the poetry of Rupa Goswami and the actual subject matter, the Leela of Radha Krishna, are not two separate things. This is the speciality of Srila Rupa Goswami's writing above all other types of mundane poets. Srila Gurudev used to say that in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is mentioned, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavayemu Yanti Yatsuraya. From the perspective of Aishwarya, we can consider that it means that Sri Krishna inspired the Vedas into the heart of Adi Kavi, the original poet, Lord Brahma. But Srila Gurudev said, on a deeper level, this means Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavayemu Yanti Yatsuraya, that Radha and Krishna combined together in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They inspired the Rasa Tattva within the heart of Adi Kavi, the original poet of Adi Rasa, the poet of Madhurya Rasa, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. So Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, there's so many dimensions to his presentation. He's a darshanik, he's a great philosopher, he's a Siddhanta Acharya, So he's given the philosophical explanations. He's also Upasana Acharya, because he's shown us the path of Upasana, especially the Swarasiku Upasana, the service of Radha and Krishna in their Nitya Lila. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad is also a Kaviraj. He's a king of poets because he's presented the most beautiful poetry, and especially his dramas, Lalit Madhav and Vidagdha Madhava. Srila Rupa Goswami is a Kavya Acharya. That means that he's also presented the aesthetic theory, the details, the fine details, the technical aspects of all the ingredients of rasa, and the development of Tirobhav and comparison between various moods and so on. So this is extraordinary that he's both a Kaviraj and also a Kavya Acharya, because we see that, let's say, Shakespeare, he's a playwright, he wrote dramas, but he didn't explain the rasa tattva or aesthetic theory. On the other hand, the famous philosopher Aristotle, he wrote about aesthetic theory and the theory of drama, but he didn't write any plays himself. But here in Srila Rupa Goswami, not only is he a playwright giving drama, but also in his Natak Chandrika, there he's given the entire aesthetic theory of how a drama is constructed in a way that it produces the maximum profound experience of rasa in the audience. So he's a Siddhanta Acharya, he's a Upasana Acharya, he's a Kaviraj, he's a Kavya Acharya, and in addition to that, he's also Nitya Parikar. He's the eternal associate of Radha Krishna, the incarnation of Sri Rupa Manjari. So in this way, Srila Rupa Goswami is extraordinary in that he's shining a light on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna from all 5 directions at once. So there's a famous kirtan that Srila Gurudev always used to inspire us to sing on Srila Rupa Goswami's disappearance day, Yan Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata. If Srila Rupa Goswami Pad had not appeared in this world, then even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought to this world the treasure box, the treasure chest filled with the jewels of love, but it was under lock and key. And Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the key to Rupa Goswami Pad, and he opened that treasure chest and distributed the jewels. If Srila Rupa Goswami Pad had not appeared in this world, then who would have been able to make those jewels available, though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had brought them with him? So in that song it is said, Kujanata Mathura Vrindavana Kujanata Brajanita Kujanata Radha Madhavarati Kujanata Sohi Prita. If Rupa Goswami Pad had not appeared in this world, then who would have understood the difference between the mood of Mathura and Vrindavan? Who would have understood the Radha Madhav Rati, the Tirobhav, the love between Radha and Madhav, Ko Janata Soyi Prita, and who would have understood their loving pastimes? Especially here, he's saying, Ko Janata Brajaniti. So this is what I would like to touch on this evening, because we have a very short time, just on this subject of Brajaniti. Niti means the ethics or the morality or the way of behavior. So the way of behavior in this world, the way of behavior in Vaikunta, the way of behavior in Mathura and Dwarka, they are not like Brajaniti, the way of behavior in Braja. Why? Yasmin Viruddha Gatayo Yanisham Patanti. See, Krishna is the Viruddha Dharma Ashray, the shelter of contradictory characteristics. And Shrimati Radhika's prem is also the Viruddha Dharma Ashray, the shelter of contradictory characteristics. And because of this, their way of behavior is extremely crooked. Aheri vagati prem nasva bhavakuti labhavet, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad said. That prem between young couples moves in a very crooked way, like a snake. And therefore, even though Radha Krishna are the absolute truth, their pastimes are characterized by, first of all, the chalata, cheating and lying. They're always cheating each other and deceiving each other. Even though Sri Krishna is an ocean of mercy, but we see that the nature of Brajaniti is that the Brijbasis, they're always doing apahas, they're always teasing each other. Even though the transcendental realm is a Advaya Gyan Tattva, it is a non-dual reality, but there is always the competition. It's the waves of prem that cause the Brijbasis, especially Radha Krishna and Gopis, to engage in competing with each other all the time. And even though this love is unbroken and steady, at the same time, there is a parivartan. That means that this Tirobhav is Ushna. It's very hot. And so the moods are always changing. The Krishna and the Gopis, they're always changing their moods and activities. So I just want to give a few examples how Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has illustrated the Brajaniti. First of all, the deception and cheating. He said, Prema dvayora sikayo aidipa eva riddeshva bhashati nishtala eva bhati dwaradayambadam astu bahiskitaschat nivati shigam atavala gutama paiti. That love is such that it cannot be expressed in words. It's like the lamp, the flame of a candle, which is kept inside the cottage of the heart. If it were to be expressed outwardly, then the wind of pride would blow and it may flicker or even go out. And so love is never expressed directly. It's always hidden. In this way, Radha Krishna, they deceive each other and cheat each other by showing one mood, but really having another in their heart. But because both Radha Krishna are so rasik, they can relish these contradictions in their behavior. Krishna especially resorts to cheating. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad has described that one day the Sakis arranged that Radha and Krishna should meet together in a Keshar Kunj, the Kunj of Kesha flowers. But when Krishna was on his way there, he met with Padma, the Saki of Chandravali, and she took him in another direction. And time passed there. And in the meantime, Radharani was waiting with Krishna with a broken heart. And eventually she became upset and she just left that place. So finally, when Krishna extracted himself from the Kunj of Chandravali, then he went to the Kunj where he was supposed to meet with Radhika, the Kesha Kunj. But when he arrived there, he saw Radharani's broken ornaments scattered here and there. He saw the chasaka, the cup of the honey wine sitting undrunk. And so he could understand that Radharani had made all arrangements to please him, but then he had not come. And in frustration, she'd broken her ornaments, scattered them and left. So now Krishna thought, I'm in big trouble. What should I do now? At that time, Krishna takes shelter of, though he's Satyabharatam Satyaparam Ti Satyam, he's the absolute truth and his words are always true. But in Braja, he takes shelter of deception. Krishna thought, what can I do? So then he went to another Kunj where there was the Nag Keshar. So the arrangement was that Radha and Krishna should meet in the Keshar Kunj. But in Braja, there are two types of flowers called Keshar. One is called Bakul. Bakul is called Keshar. And that's where they were supposed to meet. But there's another type of Kunj, and that's called Nag, another type of Keshar, and that's called Nag Keshar. So Krishna thought, oh, if I go to the Nag Kesha Kunj and pick some flowers from there, then I'll have the evidence that I too have been waiting the whole night, but Radharani did not come to meet with me. And then we can just say, oh, there was a misunderstanding. When you said Keshar Kunj, you meant Bakul, but I thought you meant Nag Keshar. It was just a completely innocent misunderstanding. And so in this way, Sri Krishna picked the Nag Keshar flowers and he set off to meet with Radharani, now with the evidence that he is innocent. He has an alibi. It was a genuine misunderstanding, and he has proof of his legitimate excuse. So, of course, when Sri Krishna arrives there, then Lalita Saki is very upset. As Srila Rupa Goswami has described Radamba pi bhajapate kritamatmajena kutam managapi vilokya vilovidakshim vagbangi bistvamachirena vilajyantim deving gunai sulalitam lalitam namami. If Krishna will come to meet with Radhika and speak even some slight crooked words, at once Lalita Saki will become furious and chastise him with harsh words. So Sri Krishna arrived at the Kunj and said, oh, just see, when I was waiting there the whole night in this Kunj, then I picked these flowers, and you can see the honey is dripping from these flowers. Why? Because they're feeling so much sympathy for my pain and for my separation. Even these flowers are crying. So in this way, Sri Krishna is very clever, and because of the nature of prema, the Braja Niti, Krishna is engaged in deception. Another aspect of Braja Niti, the second aspect, is teasing. Srila Rupa Goswami has manifested the words of Purnamasi Devi, Stotram yatra tatastatam prikatayats chittasya darte byatam Ninda pi pramadam prayachati parihasasriyam vibrati doshena shaitam gunaina gurutam kena pinavatam vati premna swara sikasya kasya chidayam vikridati prakriya. Oh, in this braja, if lover and beloved meet, if one will praise the other one, then the other one will think, oh, he has no love, or she has no love. Why? Because when people don't really have a relationship with each other very deeply, then they'll tend to be very polite. But persons who are very, very close, they don't hold on to such formalities. And just for joking, they may speak ill of each other or criticize each other. And this gives great joy. So ninda pi pramadam prachati parihasam sriyam vibrati. When they do ninda, when they criticize each other, then they feel great joy. But if they were to speak praise of each other, then they would wonder, why has my beloved become so tatastha, so neutral towards me? So ninda, criticism, is like smoke. No one likes smoke in their face. But if agur is added to smoke, then it becomes incense, and everyone likes the fragrance of incense. So in the same way, when ninda, which is like smoke, is mixed with prema, then it's a cause of great joy. Also, Krishna is teasing gopis, and gopis also tease Krishna. Sometimes Radhika, by her glance, she causes Krishna to be so bewildered that he drops his flute, and Radhika steals his flute. Then later, when Krishna discovers my flute has gone, then Krishna, he begs him, please give it back. Abradhe Rani de taro bangsi mori jo bangsi mori prana basata hai wo bangsi gai chori. Abradhe Rani de taro bangsi mori. Oh Radhika, please return my flute. Give me my flute back. My pran is living in this flute, and now it has been stolen by someone. I think it was you, so please return my flute. So at that time, the gopis, they tease Krishna quite cruelly. Krishna asks, Kaisi me gao radhe, kaisi bajao, kaisi me lao gaya geri. Oh, how will I sing? How will I play? How will I gather my cows together? So gopis tease Krishna. Mukh se gao kanha, kar se bajao, lakuti se lao gaya geri. Ab radhe rani de taru bangsi mori. Oh Krishna, you can sing with your mouth. Why do you need this piece of bamboo? You can play music by clapping your hands. And you can use your stick to collect your cows. Why do you need this flute? You're a prince. You're the son of the king. And bamboo is worth nothing. It's available everywhere in the forest. Why are you crying over this? So in this way, the nature of Brajaniti is a teasing. The next aspect of the Brajaniti is a prema kalaha, quarreling or loving competition. The Brijbasis, especially Krishna and Gopis, they're always competing with each other. If Krishna has Abhishek to become the Yuvraj, then Braj Gopis make Abhishek to make Radharani Vrindavaneshwari. If Krishna makes Shamakund with his heel, then Radhika will make Radhakund with her toe. If Krishna will brag about wrestling, then the Sakis will say, oh Krishna, you can wrestle with your friends, but you cannot wrestle with our Saki Shrimati Radhika. If Krishna will steal Braja Gopi's clothing, Gopis steal Krishna's flute. If Krishna will plant his mother's pearl necklace to grow pearl trees, then Gopis will plant all the pearl ornaments of all their families. In this way, it's the nature of prema, it causes competition. Radha and Krishna engage in holy lila, throwing color at each other. This is a competition. They engage in jalkali, splashing in the water. If in the Rasa Lila, Sri Krishna will sing in the 5th note, Gopis will sing in the 7th note. So in this way, the prema causes the competition always. It is said in Braj Bhasha, prema path ke sabi bat sabasir ke hota hai, which means that on the path of prema, then all the weights are 1/4 heavier than the other weights. The meaning is this, that if you go to a marketplace and you want to buy something, so the person who's selling the products there, he has some weights. It may be 1 kilo, 1 1/4 kilo, 1 1/2 kilo, 1 3/4 kilo, 2 kilos. So each weight is 1/4 heavier than the next one. But in Braja, all of the weights are 1/4 heavier than all of the others. So this Brajabhasa saying is there to show that whatever situation Krishna and the gopis are in, they're always trying to outdo each other. So Srila Rupa Goswami Pad in his Utkalika Vallari, there he's described about the competition between Sri Krishna's flute playing and Radhika playing on the veena. Rupa Goswami Pad said, Stambam prapanchati yashiki pincha moli, Venorapi pravalayan swarabanga uchai, Nadaka dakshanam avapsasi te mahatya, Vrindavaneshri samay sravanati titvam. Oh, when will that day come? When a beautiful sound will be the guest of my ears. What is that? Rupa Goswami is praying, when will I be there as Rupa Manjari? And I see that Sri Krishna is playing on his flute. The love in his heart is inexpressible and overflowing from his lips and spreading everywhere in the form of his flute song. And Radhika being overwhelmed by the vibhav of the Venu Geet, then Radharani is playing on her Mahati Veena. But as Radharani is playing, she plays in such an exquisite way. She's not just plucking the strings of her Veena, she's playing on Sri Krishna's heartstrings. And Sri Krishna becomes stunned. So stambam prapanchati. The moment Sri Krishna becomes stunned, then his fingers cannot move. And he's just playing one note. And this one note is going on and on and on without any further note until he's running out of breath, and then the note begins to waver and then just disappears. And then only Radhika is playing. Or when will I experience this competition of prema between Radha and Krishna expressed through his flute playing and Radhika's Veena playing? So in this way, there's always competition. So deception, teasing, competition, and the fourth one, which is very important, is the changing of moods. Nija prana palotate saki jog doli ke pan. It said that just as a person who's selling betel leaf, he's always splashing some water on his stall, and he never lets the betel leaf sit in one place. He's always turning them over and changing their position. So in the same way, Radhika and the Sakis, they're always continuously changing their moods. And so this is very astonishing for Sri Krishna. So I want to give one small example given by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, which really illustrates his amazing revelation. Sri Krishna, after meeting with Radhika, he was returning to meet with his friends. And he was thinking to himself, how is Srimati Radhika? Mudram Darya Mayim Shanam Vitanute Tarunya Lakshmi Kshanam Sopekshaksham Amata Noti Baniti Outsokubada Kshanam Sudham Dristimitakshanam Pranayate Prankat Katakshakshanam Roshena Pranayena Chakalitudi Radha Duda Bidyate. One moment I look at Srimati Radhika and she's the Darya Mai. She's completely patient and completely composed and steady like a sage. And then the next moment I look at her and she's Tarunya Lakshmi Kshanam. She's completely fickle and restless like an adolescent girl. 1 minute, Sopek Shakshana Mata Noti. 1 minute, she's completely neglecting me, looking the other way, not talking at all. And then the next moment, Agasokya Bhajakshanam, she's filled with eagerness and she cannot stop speaking. She wants to express and speak to me about so many things. One moment, Shuddham Dristimitakshanam, she looks at me in a very straightforward way with the pure eyes, very, very pure. But then the next moment, Pranayate Prankatakakshakshanam, she glances at me with a sidelong glance, which is filled with desire to meet with me alone in one solitary secret kunj. So I cannot understand this Radhika. Roshena Pranayena Chaklita Di Radha Duja Birjate. It seems that she's so angry and also she feels so much oneness with me that these two moods have split her heart into two pieces. And it seems that they're actually two different persons. There are two Radhas in one form. So this is the Krishna's realization that when he meets with Radhika, her moods are changing in such extreme ways that it seems as if there are two or more Radhikas, and Krishna never knows which Radharani will I get at any given moment. In this way, Krishna becomes amazed. This is the nature of rasa. Rasai saras chamatkaro yambina naraso rasa. The essence of rasa is chamatkar, astonishment. And without that astonishment, there is no rasa. So Krishna himself, who is the Akila Rasamrita Murti Prasimara Ruchi Ruda Taraka Pali Kalitala Shama Lalito Radha Prayan Vidurjayati, Rupa Goswami said, Krishna is the embodiment of all rasa, which is filled with astonishment. But Krishna himself is astonished by the prem of Srimati Radhika. So this is the Brajaniti revealed by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. If Srila Rupa Goswami Pad had not expressed it, then who would know? No one would know. It is such an inconceivable subject. So we're eternally indebted to Srila Rupa Goswami. So on this celebration of his disappearance, I offer my prayers. Adadanastinam dantair idam yache puna puna Srimad Rupa padam bodho Duli Sham Janma Jammani, taking a straw between my teeth and bowing down, I'm begging again and again, may I become just like a particle of dust on the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai.
Hare Krishna Prem Prajan Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for walking us through Braj and eternal relationship of Sri Rupa Goswami, and then walking us through how in what mood we should be worshipping. So it's very beautiful, and you brought us back to life in terms of how we should be thinking about Braj Dham, and I can see the beautiful Braj Dham behind you. So it's beautiful.
I'm very grateful. Thank you for giving me this short opportunity to give a Shraddha Pushpanjali, the offering of flowers of a few words at the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami, for my own purification. And you mentioned that you've been reading the Gaudiya Darshan.
It's work in process, Prabhuji. It's very difficult. It's very dense.
Well, it's only the first part. The first part is difficult, and if you can get past the first part, the rest is much more easy. But you can see if you jump to page 119, I've written a commentary. So if you go straight to page 119 and read the commentary first, then when you go back to the beginning and read the book, you'll find it much more easy to read. I knew that it was very challenging. Srila Gurudev himself, in his introduction, he said that it's very challenging, the first part. So I felt it was necessary to write a commentary, and devotees are commenting that when they read that first, then when they read Srila Prabhupada's lecture, it's much more easy sailing to go through it and come to his more rasic points, which come later in the lecture. So thank you very much for spending some time to try to study that. It was one of the later contributions that Srila Gurudev shared with us from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, and it's very, very valuable. And just before I go, I'd like to say once again, pranam to all the devotees. And if you'd like to join us during Kartik, Brajmandal Parikrama, we'll be studying Srila Rupa Goswami's Vidagdha Madhav Natakam for the whole month of Kartik this year in the Kartik Brata. So you're welcome to join us in Anandam Gaudiya Ashram, and you can contact me by email or by prem108@gmail.com, or by Facebook or Chaitanya Academy International on Facebook if you like to participate in that parikrama and spend 1 month studying the beautiful poetry of Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Vidagdha Madhav Natakam. Thank you so much. I've taken too much of your time. My pranams again and again. Radhe Shyam.
Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranams. Our next speaker is Nimai Chaitanya Das Prabhu. Nimai Prabhuji, you got another 25 minutes. So as we get closer, I will let you know. You are part of our Bhakti Zone, so you're well familiar with all the processes. So floor is all yours, Prabhuji. Dandavats.
Hare Krishna. Just go. Okay. Hare Krishna. I'm just turning. Okay. Jai Shri Guru Garanga. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayani Tinamine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastachade Shatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I'd like to offer my unlimited Dandavat Pranams, Pushpanjali, the lotus feet, Nitya Pravishta Sotra Sata Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and also the same unlimited Dandavat Pranams to Nitya Pravishta Mustota Sata Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, to all of our Guru Bhagya, to our Rupanuga Vaishnavacharyas, to Rupa Goswami, to all the assembled devotees and Vaishnavis and Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Well, it's always a wonderful opportunity to have the opportunity to glorify Rupa Goswami. So I really appreciate this opportunity. And it's also a wonderful opportunity to speak after very beautiful, elevated speakers, which helps remind me of my very simple position. And I'm just a beginner on this path, really. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'd like to just start off. Look, I'm sure we've repeated many times some history of Rupa Goswami, but hearing these things again and again, I know for so many years hearing the history and hearing it again and again, somehow it enters into the heart more and more. Of course, we know that Rupa Goswami is an eternal associate of Krishna as Rupa Manjari, and has come as the eternal associate as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this age of Kali, and as Rupa Goswami. And he came for, Lord Chaitanya gave him 4 main instructions, amongst other things, but the main thing was to rediscover the lost places in Vrindavan, to write scriptures on Bhakti Tattva, Bhakti Truth, and Bhakti Ras, to establish deity and to preach the love of the holy name. And as we know, Rupa Goswami was born in 1489, and he left this world in 1558. And he was born to a very aristocratic, wealthy Brahminical family. And he had two brothers, as we know, Sanatana Goswami and Anupam. And he was called, and like Prabhu said before, basically threatened to work for the king. Hussein Shah said not only would he harm Rupa Goswami and his family, but also would take advantage and harm other Vaishnavas. So Rupa Goswami, his arm was twisted, he took the position, and interestingly, he became extraordinarily wealthy. I mean, beyond most of our conceptions of wealth, extremely wealthy, which leads us, just gives us a little drop of appreciation for those of us that are attached to our families and houses and finances and things like that. How Rupa Goswami was very easily able to give up such things. He went to Ramakeli. When he was in Ramakeli to work for the king, there was a time when Mahaprabhu was coming through with the kirtan party, and he calmed down the king. The king was very concerned about who is this Chaitanya and this kirtan, and he calmed him down and said, oh, he's just leading some kirtan, no problem. So the king became peaceful. And during that time, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami snuck out of the palace at night and spent some time with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who embraced them and touched them with his lotus feet and blessed them, and also assured them, because he knew their heart, he knew their prayers, that soon they would be released from their responsibilities in working for this Muslim king. During that time, as always, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami always expressed extreme humility, which is something that attracted the heart of Lord Chaitanya significantly. So first, it was Rupa Goswami who resigned from his position in working for the king. And at that time, he split his immense funds. It's described that he filled up 2 boats of gold coins. He had so much wealth, and he split it with half of it for Vaishnavas, half of it, a quarter of it for family, and a quarter of it for future emergencies. And at that time, he sent out 2 men to go to Puri to find out when Mahaprabhu was next going to Vrindavan. And also at that time is when Sanatana Goswami, who the king did not want to let go of, took ill leave. So for some time, he was claiming that he was sick, but then the king was saying, this is going on a little too long. So he had some of his men go spy on Sanatana Goswami and discovered that he was studying Srimad Bhagavatam. He seemed in perfect health, and that he was speaking Bhagavatam, studying Bhagavatam. So it was around that time that the king imprisoned Sanatana Goswami. And at Prayag, so Rupa Goswami heard that Mahaprabhu was on his way to Braj, but at that time, around that time, they met at Prayag. And Rupa Goswami and Anupam found Lord Chaitanya again, very humbly with straw in their teeth. And at that time, again, he gave Rupa Goswami Anupam his mercy, embraced him, again, put his feet on his head, and Rupa Goswami offered the most wonderful prayer, Namo Mahavanaya, Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya, Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauri Krishe Namaha. O most magnificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself. You're appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you've assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani, and you're widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. And very interesting, as Srila Bharati Maharaj mentions in one of his lectures, that when Lord Chaitanya, typically, when he would hear anybody mentioning him as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, calling him Narayan, calling him God, and like that, he would always cover his ears. He wouldn't tolerate it. But with this prayer, he did not do that. He accepted this beautiful, perfectly true prayer and pranam that he offered to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He also told Rupa Goswami at that time that Sanatana Goswami would be released soon. During that time in Prayag, we know that Lord Chaitanya instructed Rupa Goswami in all tattvas, Bhakti Tattva, Bhakti Ras, all Siddhanta was given to Rupa Goswami. And we also remember that previously Lord Chaitanya had spent that time with Ramananda Roy and had Ramananda Samvad. So all the teachings that had accumulated into the heart of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were then given very mercifully, impregnated into the heart of Rupa Goswami. So everything that was shared between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya was then given to Rupa Goswami. So all these teachings that Lord Chaitanya had to give in this world were completely impregnated into the heart of Rupa Goswami. Just like there's a oneness between Rupa Manjari and Radharani, there's also that oneness between Lord Chaitanya and Rupa Goswami. They said they were both very beautiful, and in many ways, the form of Rupa Goswami was said to appear to be very similar to the beautiful transcendental form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there's this beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita 2:19:1. It's described just as the Lord enlightened Lord Brahma with the details of creation and the potency for creation. That same Lord, Lord Chaitanya, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with the potency, the spiritual potency, to revive and reveal Krishna's tattva and his Raja pastimes. He ordered him to write the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu at that time. And Mahaprabhu, of course, taught him all gradations of bhakti from bottom to top and all about the different rasas that are there. And after 10 days, the Lord departed and he ordered Rupa Goswami to go to Braj. And at that time, he and Anupam went to Braj. They were there for about a month. And then they wanted to go find Sanatana Goswami. But as they left, Sanatana Goswami took another road and they missed each other. At that time, when Rupa Goswami was with Anupam, Anupam left his body and Rupa Goswami went to Bengal and dealt with some family responsibilities, and at that time for some time. Then when Chaturmasya was beginning, all the devotees from Bengal were leaving to go to Puri, and Rupa Goswami wasn't able to go with anybody, so he waited a little while, and then he went by himself to Puri. And when he was passing through Satyabhama Puri, it was that time when he was also writing this poetry. He was writing the beginnings of Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava, but it was actually in its early stages. And Satyabhama actually appeared to Rupa Goswami in a dream and told him to write a separate play about her. So not to have one book where Krishna leaves Vrindavan in any way, but to have two books. And so this is the first time that Rupa Goswami heard that instruction. So Rupa then made his way to Puri, and interestingly enough, he chose to never go inside Jagannath temple. He considered himself most humble. We can just imagine the most wealthy person, extremely wealthy person, now in a very, very simple cloth. And he stayed with Haridas Thakur, who also never went into the Jagannath Puri, into the inner sanctum of the Jagannath Puri temple. He stayed with Haridas in his thatched hut. And he considered himself very fallen, as we've heard before, even more than Jagai and Madai. So it's said that Jagai and Madai, he said, I am even more offensive because Jagai and Madai, they never chanted the holy name, so they could never make an offense to the holy name. But so Rupa Goswami was considering himself most humble, and even in his humility, considering himself fallen. So very beautifully, Lord Chaitanya, every day practically every day would bring prasad to Haridas Thakur. And they would have so many beautiful, heart-wrenching interactions together. And at one time he said to Rupa Goswami, never take Krishna out of Braj, never take Krishna out of Vrindavan. And then at that moment, Rupa Goswami, the light went on. He knew for sure that that dream was absolutely true. And it was Lord Chaitanya's desire that Rupa Goswami makes 2 books. And we know this tattva that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. And so Rupa Goswami was able to write these 2 very incredible transcendental literatures, the Dagda Madhava and Lalita Madhava. And Rupa Goswami understood the heart and mind of Lord Chaitanya completely. Why? Because Lord Chaitanya empowered him in that way. And as Prem Prayojan and so many others, Prabhu and so many others have been saying, how if it wasn't for Rupa Goswami, none of the inner moods of Lord Chaitanya would have been released and revealed to this world, into this most fallen, but most auspicious, most amazing Kali Yuga. Everything in this Kali Yuga is extreme. The hellish aspects are extreme, and the opportunity for attaining the highest of the high is also given in this most degraded Kali Yuga and most auspicious Kali Yuga. So during the Rath Yatra, as we know, Lord Chaitanya stood before Lord Jagannath and in the mood of Radharani. And he sang this mundane song that we've heard about, right? Talking about these mundane lovers wanting to meet in a new, novel way. Things have gotten a little dry. So, but only Svarup Damodar really could understand the inner meaning. But yet we understand that Rupa Goswami also understood the inner meaning. So what he did is he wrote a verse that expressed this mood of Lord Chaitanya. And he wrote this verse, and it was, I'll just say the English, "O companion, this is the same beloved Krishna meeting me here in Kurukshetra. And I am the same Radha, and both of us are feeling the joy of union." This is true. "Even so, my mind wishes for the forest of the banks of the Yamuna, where the 5th note of his flute reverberated sweetly within my heart." So he wrote this beautiful poem, this beautiful verse, and he put it on the thatched roof of Haridas Thakur's hut. And he went to take bath, and Lord Chaitanya appeared while Rupa Goswami wasn't there at the moment. And he saw this poem that was drawing on the thatched roof of Haridas Thakur's kutir. And he read it, and he became completely astonished when he read that. And he found it, he read it. He was astonished, and as it reflected perfectly the mood of the song that he was singing. And Lord Chaitanya affectionately said Rupa Goswami on the back, and he said, "How did you know my mind? How did you know?" And then he even took this same verse to Svarup Damodar, and to sort of check it for its accuracy and to inspect it. But also he asked Svarup Damodar, "How did he know my mind? How did he know my heart?" And Svarup Damodar acknowledged that only because you have benedicted him. And Lord Chaitanya acknowledged, "Yes, I have benedicted him." So then one day Lord Chaitanya asked Rupa what he was writing. This was another time at Haridas Thakur's kutir. And he read a verse that he just finished just recently. And it was about the sweetness of the holy name. And present there was, of course, Haridas Thakur and some other devotees. And the verse was, "I do not know how much nectar the 2 syllables of Krishna's name have been, how they become so nectarous. Dancing madly on my tongue, they awaken in me the desire to possess unlimited mouths. As they sprout in my ears, they give me the hope that one day I have millions of ears. And as they enter into the garden of my heart, they overcome the activities of every one of my senses, leaving them completely inert." So at that moment, Haridas Thakur, who we understand to be Namacharya, who knew every verse, every glorification known to anyone. He's our Namacharya. He's the embodiment of that person who knows the glories of the holy name. And he was astounded and astonished by this beautiful verse that Rupa Goswami had written. And he became ecstatic, and he was dancing and dancing in ecstasy after hearing this verse. And then another day, Lord Chaitanya brought Nityananda, Swarup Damodar, Ramananda Roy, Pramananda Puri, and they too were all astonished by this verse. They were very, very impressed about the sweetness, because the holy name is described in so many ways. From bottom to top, there's so many benefits. We understand how it can, keep away evil spirits. It can do anything, right? The holy name has contained everything, but never before had been articulated in such a beautiful rasika way, describing its incredible depth and sweetness. So Ramananda Roy, who we also understand to be expert in Ras Tattva, we remember he had the whole Ramananda Samvada conversations for 2 times with Lord Chaitanya for 2 sections of time. And he was an expert in literature and poetry and Ras Tattva. And so he was curious, what else is Rupa Goswami writing? So he asked him, what are you writing? And Rupa Goswami spoke the invocation. That's the second verse of the part of the invocation of the Vidagdha Madhava, which is an Narpitam Chadim Charakkara Nirvartana Palo, Samarparitam Unatodvala Rasvam Svat Flavakti Shriyam, Hari Purita Sundarajuti Kadamba Sandipita Sadahridaya Kandare Sparato Vasachinandana, which is, may the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love, Manjari Bhav. So when Mahaprabhu heard this, he externally appeared slightly displeased, saying that it was an overstatement, but all the other devotees were ecstatic and tears were coming out of their eyes. They were all in extreme bliss at this incredible prayer that Rupa Goswami had written. So again, at that time also Lord Chaitanya requested that all the devotees there bless Rupa Goswami. So he had all the blessings of Lord Chaitanya, and he had all the blessing of the Vaishnavas. So because he knew and all the Vaishnavas at that time became very confident, very happy that they knew that the teachings of Lord Chaitanya would continue. There was a sense of satisfaction, faith, excitement, hope, and gratitude that they knew, and confidence that they knew that Lord Chaitanya's essential mood and teachings would be revealed by this personality, Rupa Goswami. There was none other, no one else got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya in exactly the same way that Rupa Goswami received his mercy. And then Rupa went to Braj and first to Bengal for some time to deal with family issues. And then he met Sanatana in Vrindavan. And there, of course, they slept under a different tree every night. They were extremely renounced. They were beloved in all of Vrindavan. Everyone loved them. And nightly they wrote many, they chanted all night. They slept maybe an hour and a half. And they wrote many essential books. And Rupa Goswami wrote 16 or 17 books. And we also know that Raghunath Das Goswami, when he left Puri, after all the Vaishnavas had left this world, he went to Vrindavan, and he actually had the mood that he wanted to take his body and jump off Govardhan Hill and take his life. But Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami gave him their shelter, and he was there for many years. And of course, he wrote some extremely powerful and important books. And if it wasn't for him, then all the knowledge that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wouldn't have had that in order to write our Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is considered the most important scripture in the universe at this time. And we understand that also that Narottam Das Thakur wrote some beautiful prayers. Just one line from that is so striking, saying, Rupa's feet are my religious practice. Rupa Manjari's feet are my religious practice. We know that Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. So just wanted to take a couple more minutes. I think I have another 5 minutes.
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to read a little bit from the Vidagdha Madhava, just the very beginning. And it just shows the incredible compassion of Rupa Goswami. The very first verse says, may the pastimes of Sri Krishna reduce the miseries existing in the material world. So already he has the heart of a Vaishnav who just wants to release the world of suffering and misery. So he's the highest of the high. He's Rupa Manjari, but he's coming here to reduce the miseries existing in the material world and nullify the world, the humanity of unwanted desires. This is the first line of Vidagdha Madhava. The pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are like sikarini, a blend of yogurt and candy. They overpower the pride of even the nectar produced from the moon, for they distribute the sweet fragrance of the concentrated, loving affairs of Srimati Radharani and the gopis. And then, of course, the next verse of Narpitam Charat, which I won't take the time to read right now. And then it goes on this very wonderful conversation. And this is all written by Rupa Goswami. You have to understand that there's no word that he didn't write intentionally. And because you have the narrator, why do we speak so many words? Gentlemen, gentlemen, please hear me. This is Rupa Goswami saying, last night, Lord Shiva, who had come in the role of a devotee, spoke to me in a dream. So now he's bringing in Lord Shiva, the protector of Ras Leela, the protector of Krishna and Braj. So many beautiful pastimes of Lord Shiva we understand, which we can't go into now at all. Oh, Rupa Goswami, expert writer of plays, this delightful place near Keshi Tirtha on the slope of Govardhan Hill. This grove on the bank of the Yamuna River is very pleasing and full of many fragrant and beautiful flowers. At this moment, eager to see the forest of Vrindavan, the advanced devotees, expert in relishing the mellows of devotional service, have come here. Devotees whose hearts are full of love for Nanda's son, who is a crown jewel of all youths and who is decorated with many new lotus flowers. Playful like a maddened cuckoo, the first teacher of perfect flute players, and an ocean where the sharks of the gopis' hearts play. The devotees here are all very fortunate. So then I'll skip a verse because of time. Burning in separation from Lord Mukunda. Now he's talking about giving mercy to the devotees. Burning in separation from Lord Mukunda. These devotees are now about to give up their lives. O Rupa Goswami, please protect them. Protect them by giving them a little of the nectar of Lord Mukunda's pastimes. My mercy will give you the power to do this. So this is showing Lord Shiva's compassion for the living entities, and also Shiva's indicating who Lord Shiva really worships. And this way, Lord Shiva, the spiritual master of the universe, spoke. And he says, I will now obey. So, and then the next verse, or verse, a couple verses later, although the poetry in my play is not very beautiful, of course we know it's astoundingly beautiful, the wise will take delight in it, for it bears the scent of Lord Hari. What wise man will not bow his head and respectfully drink well water that is washed with Shalagam Shula? O Master, please give us beautiful and elegant speeches, for this audience is so learned, it will criticize the demigods, what to speak of us actors. And that says, ignoring their own welfare, the people in this audience, and this audience here today, actually, are concerned only for the well-being of others. Although wealthy, well-educated, and born of exalted families, they are very humble. when they themselves are glorified, they become embarrassed, as if they themselves had sinned. All glories to the delightful virtues of this saintly audience. So I think my time is up. So I'll leave it here. All glories to this saintly, beautiful audience of incredible, wonderful devotees who are glorifying the greatest of all, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, and all glories to our Srila Gurudev, who has revealed to us the topmost importance of glorifying Rupa Goswami and beginning to have deeper and deeper and deeper every year, every day, every moment of an appreciation for Rupa Goswami and Rupa Manjari and the beautiful teachings that Srila Gurudev has given us. Panchakalpa Tarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyo Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you, Nimai Prabhu, for such a wonderful class. I mean, as I hear about all the great speakers who spoke today, consistently we heard the famous verse, which is Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. I mean, without Rupa Goswami, we wouldn't have understood the inner moods and desires of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I'm grateful for all the speakers today for bringing it to life.
Absolutely.
So for continuing to bring it to us. So thank you so much for your wonderful
Thank you for the
seva.
opportunity, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dhanavat. Pranam all the devotees.
You were our last speaker, so I will now ask Manini Radha Didi to close the ceremony with the beautiful kirtan. Didi, you're on mute.
Haribol, am I
Haribol.
unmuted now?
Yes.
I decided to try to plug in to see if you could hear me better. Hopefully, hello, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, Didi.
I'm not so skilled at all these things,
Yeah.
but I would try. It has
New
been
York.
such what?
Yeah. I said New York to California, we can hear you just fine.
Yes, Jai. I was thinking about how all of the speakers, not only today, but yesterday as well, I mean, all of us are feeling this mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami. And I have been praying Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata like daily for the past few weeks, actually, as I've been just in this mood. And so I want to make this offering. And I wonder if I have time, Shrikant, to actually read the full translation of this prayer. I know a lot of folks have referenced some of the verses, but I thought it would be nice to hear the whole thing, and I could do it before or after I offer the bhajan.
Yeah, so also we offer kirtan, we have until 4:30 Eastern time, so you have 12 more minutes. So
Okay, well, I'll do the kirtan and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good, Didi.
Can you
Haribol.
hear me on the guitar okay?
Yes.
Better, okay. All right, Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyas Cha Kripa Sindhubhyo Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. All right. Ya Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata Ya Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata
Didi, we cannot hear the guitar. Sorry, my apologies to interrupt.
You can't, but can you hear
No,
my
we-
singing?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll play it for my own reference, but then
Yeah.
as long as you can hear me, okay.
Yeah.
Braja Prema Mahanidhi Kutarika Gangapata Gadata Braja Prema Mahanidhi Kutarika Gangapata Gadata Ya Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata Irashira Ana Virayana Rita Kori Payata Irakshira Ana Virayana Rita Kori Payata Kosatya Ji Baji Vrindavana Kasava Granta Virachita Kosatya Ji Baji Vrindavana Kasava Granta Virachita Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadata Japituvan Nana Vidha Manaraji Ravinda Japituvan Nana Vidha Manaraji Ravinda Maduka Janata Jamari Banda Sumaduka Janata Jamari Banda Sharira Nadarata Janata Janita Janata Matu Vrindavana Janata Janita Janata Arati Janata Prita Janata Arati Janata Prita Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata Chakara Chana Sakala Jana Goa Sukapata Akara Chana Sakala Jana Goa Sukapata Charanaka Shankata Avamai Pranagata Charanaka Shankata Niradha Tavamai Pranagata Jai Rupa Goswami, Jai Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Jai Shri Rupa Goswami, Jai Rupa Goswami, Jai Shri Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Shri Rupa Goswami, Jai Guru Deva, Jai Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jai Guru Deva, Haribo. Haribo, Haribo, Nitai God, Haribo, 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 Nitai God, Haribo.
Didi, thank you so much for such a wonderful mood. Unfortunately, Didi, the voice was cutting off.
Oh,
So
no.
we want to end with a good bhajan. So can I ask you to sing it again without the guitar so that we all can
Oh my
hear
God,
it?
from the top, I can. All right.
Yes, very well.
Okay, can you hear me though still? Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
yes, Didi.
All right. Well, okay. I guess I'm really meant to sing this. All right. Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata. I still hear the music, sorry. Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata. Tam Vraja Prema Mahanidhi Kutarika Kankapata Ugadata Tam Vraja Prema Mahanidhi Kutarika Kankapata Ugadata Nirashira Hamsana Pana Virayana Komplita Koripayata Nirakshira Hamsana Pana Virayana Komplita Koripayata Kosabachaji Paji Vrindavana Kosabagranta Virachita Kosabachaji Paji Vrindavana Kosabagranta Virachita Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata. Japituvana Fula Palata Nanavira Manaraji Aravinda Japituvana Fula Palata Nanavira Manaraji Aravinda Somadukara Binupana Konjanata Vijamana Karivanda Somadukara Binupana Konjanata Vijamana Karivanda Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata. Kojanata Mathura Vrindavana Ko Janata Vrajanita. Ko Janata Mathura Vrindavana. Ko Janata Vrajanita. Ko Janata Radha Madhavarati. Ko Janata Soi Prita. Ko Janata Radha Madhavarati. Ko Janata Soi Prita. Yang Kali Rupa Sharira Nadarata. Jakara Charana Prasade Sakala Jana Gai Gawai Sukha Payota. Jakara Charana Prasade Sakala Jana Gai Gawai Sukha Payota. Charana Kamale Sharana Gata Madho Tava Mahima Urala Gata. Charana Kamale Sharana Gata Manini Radha Dasi Tava Mahima Urala Gata. Jai Shri Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Jai Shri Rupa Goswami, Jai Shri Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Jai Shri Rupa Goswami, Jai Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jai Guru Deva, Haribo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitai Gora, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo. Dandavat pranams. Apologies if any mispronunciations or anything like that. And thank you so much for letting me offer this bhajan, because it does sum up what Sri Madhava Das was able to really convey, all that Srila Rupa Goswami really did. And it's so glorious. And I'm so grateful that we're having this festival and getting to hear about the glories of Srila Rupa Goswami. Dandavat pranams.
And Didi, if you want, you can do the translation. I spoke with Yashoda, and then Prabhu, you're the last speaker, so we have flexibility.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So the translation is, had Rupa Goswami not appeared in this age of Kali, who would have opened the doors to the great treasure house of Vraja Prem? Who but Srila Rupa Goswami could have extracted the essence of the scriptures in the same way that a swan separates water from milk? Who could have abandoned everything to perform bhajan in Vrindavan? Who could have written such scriptures? He was a honeybee amid varieties of blossoming yellow forest flowers and mind-enchanting lotuses. Without that honeybee, who could have known the art of drinking the nectar present yet confined within those flowers? Who could have understood the glories of Mathura and Vrindavan? Who could have fathomed the intricacies of Raj? Who could have understood the rati between Sri Radha and Madhava? Who could have known that love? By the mercy of his lotus feet, all souls may sing and inspire others to sing about the glories of the love of Sri Radha Madhava, thereby attaining true joy. O Srila Rupa Goswami, having surrendered at your lotus feet, may this Madhava Das be able to comprehend your unlimited glories. Jai, Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai, Srila Madhava Das ki jai. All glories to Shri Rupa Goswami Tiro Mahotsava Festival Dandavat pranams Vanchakalpatarubhyash Chakriva Sandhya Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you so much, Didi. And I would also again offer my obeisances to all the Vaishnavas who are on today's session. Vanchakalpascha Rupascha Kripa Sindhuevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you for everyone. And tomorrow we'll have our third day celebration of the Rupa Goswami Tirobhav, same time tomorrow, for on the 3.5 hours of nectarial conversation. We have great speakers lined up tomorrow. Look forward for everyone. Hari Bol. Dandavat.